please, I've just come back to my flat and the door was locked, so I crawled through the window and my flatmate's covered in blood in the bathroom. Oh my God, she's dead.
Alice Ruggles, who was born on Christmas Eve in 1991, was the second youngest of 4 children born to Clive Ruggles and Sue Hills. She enjoyed a close-knit relationship with her siblings as they grew up in Leicestershire, England, in the quiet village of Tere Langton. By all accounts, Alice had a pretty idyllic childhood. It was filled with unconditional love from parents and a loving, fun-filled relationship with her siblings. With her quick wit, empathetic nature, as well as her outgoing personality, Alice made friends quickly. Her beautiful smile and joyful personality drew people in towards her. She was comfortable with being in the limelight since she was a natural entertainer. Alice was a young woman who enjoyed performing in school concerts. She had many interests and hobbies, and one of her favourites was fencing. This is a hobby she began doing at 11 years old. Her love of fencing led to spending time on a national fencing circuit, and this even influenced which university she selected at age 18. She attended uni in Northumbria, becoming captain of the fencing club. After graduation, Alice had no trouble finding a job that she loved, and her future really was looking bright. She moved into a flat on Rawling Road in Gateshead. It was a cosy home that she shared with a co-worker. Gateshead is an area known for its cultural diversity. It was an ideal place for a young, vibrant woman like Alice to be. With her natural beauty, sense of humour and friendliness, Alice was bound to attract a fair share of suitors. In October of 2015, Alice entered into a relationship with a man named Treeman or Harry Dillon. Dillon was a soldier based at Penicuik, south of Edinburgh. This was about 120 miles away from where Alice lived. The two enjoyed their first weeks together in an online relationship. This was because, at that point, Dillon was in Afghanistan for the military. In January of 2016, Alice and Dillon met in person for the first time after their whirlwind online romance began. Dillon was able to make the trip because he was on a short period of leave, and he then returned to the UK permanently in April of 2016. Shortly thereafter, Alice's friends began to notice changes in her behaviour. Alice lost weight and was no longer happy and outgoing. She became withdrawn and kept to herself. This was a stark contrast to her normal habits of socialising with others. Her family became concerned about how unhappy she appeared, and even her work performance was beginning to suffer. Alice's world had changed because of Dillon's criticism of every aspect of her life. This included her appearance and her friends and family. He demanded that she focus all of her attention on him. Alice's friends and family became concerned with how Dillon contacted her so frequently, and they could now see that he seemed to be in control of her every move. The relationship between the couple had a lot of ups and downs. Some days everything seemed great between the two of them, while other days were filled with problems and arguments. As their relationship continued, Dillon often demanded to know what Alice was wearing. He wanted to know where she was going, and which people she would be seeing and when. If she didn't respond to his messages quickly enough for his liking, he would start contacting her friends and family, urging them to ask her to respond to him. Occasionally, Dillon would drive almost 2 hours from his barracks just to show up unannounced at whatever place he knew Alice would be at. During this time when Alice had become even more withdrawn, and as her friends were more and more worried about her, a woman reached out to Alice to tell her that Dillon was on a dating website, and that he was pursuing other women romantically. As proof, this woman sent Alice screenshots of the messages that Dillon had been sending to her. Alice quickly broke off her relationship with Dillon when she heard of this infidelity. This, to all intents and purposes, was the perfect out. Dillon, however, denied he was talking to other women. He even tried to make Alice feel guilty for not believing him. Despite his apparent relationships with other women, Dillon was not prepared to let Alice go. With his control of Alice slipping away from him, he attempted to win her back. For weeks, he sent Alice a barrage of texts and emails. He called her relentlessly, and he even continued to speak with her friends and family. He sometimes sent her more than 100 messages a day. Occasionally, he was sobbing uncontrollably throughout the voice messages that he sent to her.
Alice, please. Please, I can't do it. Alice, please call me back. Please. I just want to speak to you. There's nothing else. I don't even know if you're getting these voice messages, but please, can you call me back? Thank you.
The tone of his messages often changed quickly. Some were contrite and begging, while others were hostile and menacing. The intent, however, was always the same. Dylan wanted Alice back. No matter how many times he tried to contact her, Alice expressed no interest in rekindling her relationship with her ex-boyfriend. In the beginning, she tried to politely let him know that she had moved on. But after the messages escalated, Alice began ignoring Dylan's calls and texts. His obsession with Alice continued, however. He hacked into her social media accounts. This was so that he could keep track of where she was and who she might be talking with at any given moment. When Dylan learned that Alice had started a new relationship with another man, he tried to sabotage it by contacting her new love interest and lying about her. It's unknown if these lies worked. The stalking continued, however, and on September the 30th of 2016, Dylan went to Alice's home, ringing the doorbell numerous times. When she looked through the peephole and saw him standing there, she decided not to answer. Eventually, though, he went to the back garden of Alice's ground floor flat. He then began knocking on the back window. After opening the curtain, she saw Dylan walking away. He had left behind chocolates and flowers, especially for her. While he made the trip home, he left another message for her. In this message, he said,
After we spoke and you didn't want to speak, well, you didn't want to call me again, so that's why I decided to come down. Give you flowers and chocolates. Now I'm on my way back. If you want to take it, you can take it. If you want to bin it, you can bin it. It's completely up to you. I just wanted to do something just to say I'm sorry and show that I really am sorry. And yeah, that's the least I could have done. But I know you're not going to come out in front of me and speak to me, so that's why I left it there. If you ever want to speak to me, it'll be good. If you don't, there's nothing I can do. Anyways, sorry for waking you up. Hope you have a good night's sleep. Bye.
That scary message prompted Alice to reach out to Northumbria Police.
Good evening, Northumbria Police. Chris, I can help you.
Hi there. I just need a bit of advice, really, more than anything. So I split up with my boyfriend about 3 months ago. Since then, I know that he's hacked into my Facebook and also my phone. He's been sending me a lot of messages, even though I've asked him not to contact me, and basically like just messaging my friends and things. And then tonight he's I had a knock at my door, and he'd sent me a message saying I've been in the garden since 5. I had a knock at my door, and then when I went and looked, I've got like a little, the thing that you can look through. And there was no one there, and then it happened again 2 or 3 times, and then he's come round the back, knocked on my bedroom window at the back of my flat, ground floor flat. He's been outside and he's like left some flowers and chocolates on the like outside windowsill, and like he walked off. He's not done anything, but I'm concerned. I've been putting off, like my friends have been telling me to call the police. I've been putting it off, but I just feel a bit like shaken up tonight. So
well, it can be classed as harassment.
Yeah.
Which is a crime.
Yeah.
If you do any contact from them, there's a number of things you can do.
Yeah.
You could go to a solicitor and take out an injunction.
Yeah.
Keep them away from you.
Yeah.
Or report it directly to the police now, and we can issue them with a PIN notice, which means if he ever comes near you again or contacts again, he'll be arrested.
Okay.
So which would you prefer?
Can I try that option, please?
Yeah, of course you can. And your name, please?
Oh, sorry, it's Alice.
What's he called?
Well, his name's Harry Dillon, but he's got like a seat name, which is Trimon. He lives in Edinburgh.
He lives in Edinburgh.
Yeah. So he's like driven down.
So he's constantly contacting you by phone or text or?
Yeah, well, I've blocked his number. We've got 2 phones. I've blocked both numbers. So he's been sending me Gmail messages. I haven't blocked him off Gmail because I don't want him to start emailing my work email. Then he's also made a fake Snapchat account to try and contact me on.
Okay, we'll need to get the Edinburgh police to go and serve him with a pin notice.
Okay.
But, well, what I'm going to do, I'm going to see if we can make an appointment to come and see you.
Yeah.
In the morning.
Yeah.
We'll get the details.
Thank you.
Alice seemed almost embarrassed to contact the police about the behaviour of an ex-boyfriend. While a police information notice may sound intimidating, it carries essentially no consequences if broken. They are handed out to people who police believe may have done something wrong, but something that they can't be arrested for, such as allegations of harassment. But the fact that Dylan would be told by the police to stop contacting her did give Alice a sense of comfort. She believed her ordeal might finally be ending, and now she could finally get on with her new life without her ex-boyfriend pursuing her. Dylan, who was still living at the military barracks near Edinburgh, was contacted on October the 3rd by the police about the police information notice. However, he wasn't arrested nor was he detained. While the police did speak with Dylan's superior, they did not contact the police in Scotland or the military police. Several people who knew Dylan and had heard about the police information notice told him to stop all contact with Alice. But instead of listening to that advice given by his colleagues, within days, Dylan sent Alice a package containing a letter and other items that reminded him of her. In the letter, Dylan said he would no longer be in Alice's life. It turns out the police information notice hadn't seemed to discourage Dylan from contacting Alice. Instead, it appeared to have made him angry. When Alice received the letter, some of her loved ones urged her to contact the police again, to tell them that the contact and harassment hadn't stopped. So Alice contacted the police for a second time.
Sorry, good evening, Northumbria Police. Jeff speaking, how can I help?
Hi there. I've been in touch with the police. Somebody's been issued with a pen so that they can't contact me. However, I've had a letter off them.
So you're reporting like the breach of the pin?
Yeah.
Who was it from?
Harry Dillon.
What was the content of the letter? Was he...
So pictures of me and him, because he's my ex-boyfriend, so like a notebook that I'd sent him when we were together and a letter.
Okay, so what was the nature of it? Was it like threatening or was it harassing? Or...
No, not threatening. It's just saying that he knows I called the police on him and he's had everything confiscated and all he has to himself is a pen and paper and an iPod, and explaining why he came down last Friday. And then it says at the bottom he won't contact me, this will be the last I hear from him, but he's said that a lot of times and he never does seem to stop.
So do you want to call back to discuss this?
Yeah, what's usually what happens with it?
Okay, well, I'll let them know you want someone to contact you back, just discuss what can be done.
Okay. Will it be the police officer that's been dealing with my case?
I can't guarantee who it'll be. I'll let them know you've got your pin notice there, so it's going into a breach of it.
Okay.
Is the best time to phone you back?
Any time really will be fine.
The police call handler asked Alice to determine whether she wanted the police to arrest Dylan. This was instead of automatically arresting him for contacting her again, even after he had disregarded the instructions of the police information notice. Trying to be a nice person and not wanting to ruin Dylan's career, Alice said that she didn't want to have him arrested. She later made a comment to a loved one that she was palmed off by the authorities. Alice was frightened and convinced that Dylan would continue to stalk her. She thought there was nothing anyone could do to prevent it. To try and protect herself, Alice began taking precautions. She would have a work colleague drive her home every day, and then she would lock her door as soon as she entered her flat. On October the 12th, 2016, Dylan made the long drive to Alice's flat and parked near it, sitting there. He was simply biding his time until she returned. As he sat, he sent messages to another woman he was trying to meet up with later that same night. After Alice had returned, Dylan entered her flat by breaking into her rear window at around 6 p.m. He grabbed a sharp implement from her kitchen and cornered Alice in the bathroom. Alice fought valiantly for her life against this trained soldier. But ultimately, Dylan used the sharp implement against Alice, and there in her own flat, she drew her final breath. An amazing and promising life cut short in an instant. Dylan fled from the scene, and Alice was found deceased a short time later by her flatmate, Maxine. Maxine immediately contacted the Northumbria police to tell them what had happened to Alice. This is part of that real call.
Please, I've just come back to my flat and the door was locked, so I crawled through the window and my flatmate's covered in blood in the bathroom.
Is she breathing?
I don't know, I can't look, I'm sorry.
Okay, try and stay calm.
Alice! 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 Oh my God, she's dead.
And yet the door was open?
No, it wasn't open, it was locked, and I've crawled through my window that was open in the back door, and she's lying covered in blood. She's blue.
Can you have a look and see if she's breathing for the ambulance?
She's not.
She's not breathing?
No, she looks, no.
Where's the blood from?
It's everywhere, I don't know, her leg looks broken, everything.
Say that again, sorry.
Her leg looks broken, everything, I don't know. Alice,
how much blood is there?
There's lots, it's everywhere. It looks like she was in the shower, everything's been knocked over, it looks like she's been attacked. Please help.
Things have been tipped over in the bathroom?
Yes, and everything looks a mess, like she's not breathing, she's actually blue, please. I mean, knew this was coming, our ex is an absolute psychopath.
Say that again, sorry.
She put in a complaint in about her ex, and she phoned 101 at the weekend to report that he's trying to get in contact, and he says we're going to do nothing, now this has happened.
Right, who tried to contact her at the weekend?
No, she's contacted 101 because she put in a statement about him 2 weeks ago. And
about who?
Our ex-boyfriend, Harry Dillon.
Right, so she been having problems with her ex?
Yes.
So do you think that's what it is?
Yeah, I can hear the police are coming.
Yeah, they're saying they're at scene. I'll wait with you until they're actually with you.
Thanks to Alice's prior calls to the police about Dylan's troubling behaviour and the additional information that was supplied by flatmate Maxine, the police quickly zoomed in on Dylan as a main person of interest. The police began searching for him right away. They found him just a few hours later after the attack. When he was located, he was trying to leave his barracks by scaling a wall. This was even though he claimed to know nothing of Alice's passings when he was found. The investigation into the incident, however, told a very different story to his. A medical examination revealed Alice's body had many bruises, as well as wounds located on her hands. These were determined to be from her trying to defend herself, bravely fighting for her life. In addition, forensic evidence tied Dylan to the scene. Alice's blood was found on the steering wheel of his car and on his bracelet. Dylan's story quickly changed when he realised there was a lot of evidence against him. Evidence that linked him to the scene, and evidence that he had repeatedly threatened Alice. Even with the evidence mounting against him, Dylan was still determined to dodge any blame for the crime during his trial.
Alice Ruggles was found at her home address in Gateshead and she'd been murdered. Okay. Did you murder Alice?
No, I did not murder Alice.
Do you have any knowledge of this?
No, I don't have any knowledge of this.
Were you present when this murder occurred?
No, I wasn't.
We've been told exactly what happened to her. And how you cut her throat.
No comment.
Are you looking back? Are you?
No
Do you remember what happened?
No comment.
Do you remember what you did? Do you remember how bad it was? Do you remember the blood spraying?
No comment.
I'm being told that you suffered. She must have known what was happening. Because she didn't die straight away.
You've got 4 tiny little scratches on your face. Her throat is slit open through the voice box.
Sat here for 2 days, showing no remorse whatsoever.
You said you loved her. You didn't love her. You thought if you can't have her, no one else can have her. That's exactly what you thought, because she doesn't want you. Is that the truth?
No comment.
Why are you no commenting now? Because you're guilty. How can you do that to someone you love? Because you're jealous, possessive, controlling, stalker, murderer.
He concocted an unlikely scenario to avoid spending any time in prison. He said that she threatened him with a sharp implement, and she was therefore accidentally cut by it when they were arguing. But the forensic evidence did not support Dylan's versions of the events, especially when it was factored in that he was much taller and heavier than she was. It was also determined that Alice had 24 injuries on her body. Further evidence showed Dylan's footmark on the bathroom door. This was an indication that he had fought his way into the bathroom where Alice was hiding from him. In his court trial, Dylan did not display any emotion about Alice's passing. Other evidence came to light which cast doubt on Dylan's tale. It came out during the trial that he had driven to Alice's house on October the 10th, and whilst there he had taken a picture of the bathroom window at the back of her flat. That showed the jury that he had ill intent towards Alice, and that he had planned his actions ahead of time. The jury also learned that Alice wasn't the first person that Dylan had stalked and verbally harassed. Before he began dating Alice, he dated a woman named Nico Nemeth. When she broke things off with him, he tracked her down. He spat at her and called her degrading names. The police were subsequently notified, and Dylan received a restraining order. This required him to stay away from Nemeth for 1 year. Unfortunately, Alice had known nothing about Dylan's inability to move on. His romantic relationships ended, but he refused to accept it. Alice didn't know that Dylan had handled rejection so badly in the past that another woman was forced to protect herself against him. In the end, the jury didn't believe Dylan's story about Alice allegedly attacking him. Although the guilty verdict was a big relief to Alice's parents and other family members, they realised that there were other women who were dealing with situations like Alice had. Looking back to their first meeting with Dylan, her parents said that they saw nothing in his behaviour that would have suggested he would later become violent towards their daughter. They also understood that their daughter may have survived if police officers did more to help women who are being stalked. While they couldn't bring Alice back, they hoped they could implement changes that could someday save other young women. Working with the police, they helped develop a protocol for processing stalking and harassment allegations. Alice's parents started a trust in which they could teach others about the threat of stalking and help other women who may be in danger. Dylan was found guilty and he was sentenced to a minimum of 22 years in prison.
Hey Graham, it's Brandon. I hope I would be able to reach you, but I guess I'm not able to, so I know this is going to come as kind of a surprise, at least to you it isn't to me. But I killed someone today. I killed my girlfriend. Well, she's supposed to be my girlfriend, but she cheated on me. And I just...
Bianca Michelle Devins was born on October 2nd, 2001. Her mother Kim was young, having her at just 18 years old. But she was a great mother and she doted on Bianca. 2 short years later, Kim and Bianca's father Mike welcomed a second child, Olivia. Bianca and Olivia were thick as thieves throughout their childhood in Utica, New York. When their parents separated for the first time in 2010, the sisters grew even closer. Coinciding with this, at just 9 years old, Bianca began to display signs of separation anxiety. Having said that, she still remained somewhat extroverted and popular at school. No one could have known what she was battling behind closed doors. This was the first of many mental battles for Bianca. Around adolescence, Bianca started displaying signs of depression, but she would still open up to a select few people who shared her love of anime, art, and manga. However, depression was a lingering element throughout middle school and high school. In 9th grade, Bianca had to transfer to a new school, the Thomas Proctor High School. This was much bigger than her previous school, and Bianca struggled to find her place among the 2,700 plus students. Bianca didn't fit into the popular girl archetype, with her style leaning more towards emo or alternative. Her struggles had progressed so far around this time that it was a major hurdle for her to even get to school in the morning at all. On some days, she would simply say, "I can't do it," and wouldn't go. On other days, she would manage to get to school, but would have to be sent home early. To make things even worse, she also became triggered by loud noises and shouting at certain times. This led to pretty frequent panic attacks. Midway through Bianca's sophomore year in 2017, Mother Kim pulled her out of public school and enrolled her in a homebound tutoring program. Now home for entire days at a time, Bianca retreated even further into the online world. She made multiple profiles on various social media platforms, each of them using differing personas. She had also amassed a few thousand followers between these accounts by this time. Due to her appearance, some of the community classified her as an e-girl. E-girls were to be girls that had an online presence and generally had an edgy persona and style. This is similar to the mid-2000s scene girls and the general emo trend. Just kind of think MySpace. She found solace in this online world while it felt like her real world was falling apart. In early 2018, Bianca was officially diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, otherwise known as BPD. She was moved to the St. Anne Institute, a residential placement facility. This was the best thing that could have happened to Bianca at that time. She found a counsellor that she liked. She began to understand herself, and now she started to fit in with other people at the facility. Bianca's mental state improved drastically. She moved back home in February 2019 and even returned to Proctor High School, where she eventually graduated. She made plans to attend the local Mohawk Community College, only 15 minutes away from her family home. She wanted to major in psychology to help people through their own mental struggles. Bianca had many mental battles that she had overcome, and now she wanted to give people the tools to do the same thing. If she could make it out the other end, then so could they. Everything for Bianca was finally falling into place. This included her love life. In the spring of 2019, before graduating, Bianca met a man through Instagram. Shortly after, the pair connected on Discord, where they sent messages to one another and formed a friendship. This man's name was Brandon Clark. Brandon was a 21-year-old Lyft driver from the Syracuse area. This was roughly an hour away from Utica. Brandon had a rocky childhood, bouncing around in the foster care system, and he too struggled with mental health. He bonded with Bianca over their struggles, along with their love of gaming and anime. Bianca's mother approved of Brandon. She was originally apprehensive that she'd met him online, but Brandon impressed her. He was extremely polite and just seemed like a very nice guy. He would come over to the house regularly, City, and Bianca's family was happy knowing that she had someone to look out for her. He and Bianca did end up briefly dating, but later they agreed that their relationship would be open and non-exclusive. Bianca especially was still young, she didn't want to be tied down, and Brandon said that he understood this. She would rather just be friends, and Brandon was happy with this. All in all, they were back in a good place. On July the 13th, 2019, Bianca was going to a concert to see Nicole Dollanganger. She was an up-and-coming gothic folk singer. Bianca was attending the concert with Brandon, and the pair of them would be meeting a guy that Bianca had met online through Discord. This new guy was called Alex and was from Jersey City. Alex was older, but Brandon would be there, so no one was particularly worried. On that day, there was nothing untoward. At around 2:30 p.m, she hugged her mother and said, "I love you," and departed for the concert. She sent a text to her mother at 7:30 p.m, a non-eventful message about parking spaces at the concert. But little did her mother know, this would be the very last time that she would hear from her daughter. At 7 a.m. the next day, the family was awakened by a knock at the front door. It was the police, and they wanted to talk about Bianca. The previous day, Bianca and Brandon made it to the concert on time and in great spirits. Things were going great. Until, that is, they met Bianca's online friend, Alex. There, the whole mood shifted. Brandon could feel a change, and he didn't like it. He didn't want Alex there, and he definitely didn't want him near Bianca. Brandon went to the toilet, and on his return, he spotted Bianca and Alex kissing. This was too much for him to handle. He simply couldn't hide his disdain for the couple. As the concert was wrapping up, Bianca sent a text message to Alex that read, "I think he saw me kissing you." Bianca and Brandon then left the concert sometime after 10 p.m. Alex left in his own car and made his way home. The pair had a long drive back to Utica ahead of them, around 6 hours, but it would feel even longer with Brandon in a bad mood. While in the car, she sent Discord messages to a friend. She implied that Brandon saw her kiss Alex and that he was now angry. The two argued in the car about the nature of their relationship. Bianca reminded him that they had agreed not to have a monogamous relationship. This was no longer an exclusive thing, and therefore she could kiss whoever she wanted, as could he. She knew the argument was far from resolved, but she'd said everything she wanted to say. They could talk more in the morning. With that, she fell asleep in the back seat whilst Brandon drove. But as she slept, Brandon spiraled downwards into a very dark place. In fact, his mind went down a path darker than any of us could imagine. As they reached Bianca's hometown, Brandon parked his car on a dead-end road about 10 to 15 minutes from Bianca's home. He wasn't ready to take her home. Instead, he took to social media with a number of chilling posts. One of his posts read, "Here comes hell. It's redemption." Brandon grabbed his cell phone and set it up on the front of his dash. It was pointing at the back seat where Bianca was sleeping soundly. He then fished around in the back seat and came out with a large, sharp kitchen implement. He then hid this out of sight. Hitting record on his cell phone, he then woke her up. He now confronted her directly about the kiss earlier in the evening. Bianca admitted to it, which only angered Brandon more. It seemed that she just couldn't win in this situation. Bianca reminded him of their non-exclusive relationship. She asked if he was ready to now take her home. But sadly, he wasn't, and he never even planned to. Brandon launched a surprise attack on Bianca, grabbing the sharp implement and tearing into her throat. She struggled and fought back, but she couldn't hold him off. During this frenzied attack, her head was almost completely removed. A sick, frenzied attack that he filmed for his own amusement. Bianca simply couldn't escape her tragic fate. After she was no longer breathing, he left her in the back seat of the car and built a bonfire. If it was to burn the body, he never actually got around to it. After some time, he staged her body on a tarp whilst playing the song Test Drive by the artist Joji, a rapper and former internet personality. The song describes a failing relationship as the singer looks for something long-term while the girl isn't as invested. He then took photos of Bianca's body and posted them across social media. He posted one of her body with the caption, "I'm sorry Bianca," to Instagram, and another on Discord with the caption saying, "Sorry you're gonna have to find someone else to orbit." He then called numerous family members followed by the police to reveal his location.
To replay this message, press 4. To get...
Hey Graham, it's Brandon. I hope I would be able to reach you, but I guess I'm not able to, so I know this is going to come as kind of a surprise, at least to you it isn't to me, but I killed someone today. I killed my girlfriend. Well, she's supposed to be my girlfriend, but she cheated on me, and I just...
In his call to the dispatcher, Clark said,
there's going to be there's a murder.
Okay. On Post Street, you said?
The end of Post Street, yes.
Okay. Very end of Post Street. Okay, what's your name?
My name is Brandon. The victim is Bianca Michelle Devins.
Yeah. What are you wearing?
It doesn't matter.
Okay, well, I just want to talk to you, okay?
Yeah, I know you want to talk to me. I know how your job works. You have to keep me on the line, but it's not happening, okay?
The police located Brandon and his vehicle on a dead-end road. Upon the arrival of law enforcement, Brandon tried to remove himself from the earth before collapsing onto the tarp that covered Bianca's body. Immediately upon hitting the tarp, he pulled out his cell phone. He then started taking various selfies of himself profusely. He posted one of these selfies to social media captioned, "Ashes to ashes." However, his attempt was unsuccessful. He was then wheeled away in an ambulance, and after being released, he was immediately arrested.
So why would you want to shake hands with the killer?
Well, Brandon, I'll tell you what, it's okay, take your time. You can ask me and I can ask you, but so you would like to talk to me then? Yes? Yes? No?
Sure.
I have to get through this and then we can have a full conversation.
In his booking photos, a scar can be seen on the side of his neck. Justice didn't come quickly for Bianca's family. Clark pleaded not guilty to second-degree murder on July the 29th, 2019, but he eventually changed his plea to guilty before going to trial. His sentencing was originally scheduled for April 2020, but the pandemic repeatedly pushed back the hearing. Brandon Clark was eventually sentenced on March the 16th, 2021. During the hearing, Brandon expressed remorse for his actions, claiming not to understand how he could have done something so evil. He said,
"For almost 2 years now, I've sat in my cell and I've wondered what I'm going to say when it finally comes time for me to speak to the people that I've hurt. And it's never been enough. It's never been adequate. I felt to really convey my emotions and to apologize. How do you meaningfully apologize for doing something so horrible and so irreversible? And that's the worst part, is that I can't take it back. I want to. I wish I could. I would give my life in a heartbeat to Bianca if I could. And I can't. Every day I wake up and I wonder how she would have spent that day if she were still here. Every day I wish that I could do more than just wonder. And I hate myself for what I did to her. I don't know why. I don't understand how I could do something like that. I don't even know who I was that day, and it disgusts me. I remember when I first met Bianca, how much I adored her and how much I just wanted to spend time with her. And for that adoration to turn into something so evil, and it's like a nightmare. Every day I wish I could wake up and just have it not be real, have it not be me.
The evidence, however, showed that Clark was clearly a disturbed individual. Despite the argument that this was a crime of passion, he came prepared that night with a sharp kitchen implement. He had a checklist on his phone of what he had planned to do on the day of her death. This included changing his Instagram bio to display his date of death and posting the Fight Club quote, "This is your life and it's ending 1 minute at a time." His internet search history was also disturbing. He looked for things such as how to cut through the carotid artery, how to choke someone out, and how to incapacitate someone. He also had hundreds of photos of Bianca on his various devices. He checked on her social media daily. This was a man utterly fixated on a woman, completely obsessed, and he was enraged when she showed interest in someone that wasn't him. He was given a life sentence with a minimum of 25 years without parole.
Months pass and I'm still not processing it. Trying so hard to do anything that will keep my mind off the fact that my sister is gone. Distractions are only temporary though, so when reality set in, that is when I realized this is no longer a nightmare. This is my life.
Police emergency.
My daughter's been kidnapped. Sal, can you speak to somebody? She's gone off in a car with somebody. Somebody picked her up in a car or something.
Okay, what's the name of the child that's gone missing?
April Jones.
How old is she?
5.
April Jones was born on April the 4th, 2007 in Machynlleth, Wales. She came into the world 7 weeks premature. She started her life in intensive care due to a fit that left her with cerebral palsy on the left side. However, she thankfully pulled through. She lived with her parents, Paul and Coral, as well as her older siblings Jasmine and Harley in a small but comfortable home. April's family described her as outgoing and determined to achieve big dreams. This was despite her condition. Machynlleth is a close-knit community. Parents felt it was safe for their children to play on their own without supervision, but little did they all know their sense of safety was about to be shattered. On the evening of Monday, October the 1st, 2012, the Jones family had a routine trip to their local leisure centre. It was swimming lesson day for 5-year-old April. After the lessons, April and her friend returned to their house where their father, Paul, whipped up dinner for the 2 little girls. The laughter filled the air as they played on their bikes in the fading daylight. As evening set in, Paul and Coral sent April's older brother Harley to pick her up as it was time for her to come home. However, when Harley returned a few minutes later, his screams cut through the calm evening. He cried that someone had taken April. She had climbed into a van. And then she was gone. The family immediately called the police for help. In mere minutes, the police arrived at the residence. They launched a desperate effort to find the little girl. Meanwhile, April's mother reached out to relatives and friends delivering the bad news. Among those she contacted was April's older sister, Jasmine. She was at the local youth club at the time. The moment Jasmine heard of her sister's abduction, she sprinted through the streets, coming home to a scene of utter chaos. The entire community had rallied round to help the police in search for April. With torches in hand, they scoured the pitch-black October night. They knocked on doors, peered into garages, and explored every street and alleyway. In an effort to spread the news to more people, April's disappearance was shared all over social media. This created widespread awareness and it urged people to be on the lookout. Search parties quickly formed and concerned citizens began scouring local forests. They were all driven by a deep-seated sense of community and worry for the 5-year-old girl. The efforts were magnified by the cold, darkness and heavy rain that gripped the area, conditions that no one, let alone a young child, should have to endure. As the hours passed and the search pushed into the early hours of the following morning, the police had no choice but to order the volunteers to stop their efforts due to the harsh conditions and unsafe weather. But the volunteers refused to stop. They were determined to bring April home. Looking back on that harrowing night, April's mother Coral would later recall with a heavy heart, saying, "There is great pride in how many people helped us to look for April." As the search for April continued, the police turned to the 7-year-old friend who April had been playing with, a girl who had witnessed the abduction. The young witness recounted that April had willingly entered the car, but that she had gotten into the wrong side, and this struck the police as an important clue. The abductor's car must have been a left-hand drive. When this new information was shared with April's parents, they immediately had a person in mind. In this small community, left-hand drive cars were exceptionally rare. It didn't take long for the locals as well as the parents to focus their suspicions on one man, Mark Bridger. He was a 46-year-old resident of the town, known for his border collie dog. Bridger had been a part of the community for years. He had 6 children with 4 different women, though none of his children actually lived with him. However, a few of his children attended the same primary school as April Jones. This could be a further connection. It was revealed that Bridger had a troubling history. He had a string of convictions for minor offences dating back to the mid-1980s. At the age of 19, he was convicted of firearms offences and theft. He had moved to Wales in the 1980s and got additional convictions for criminal damage, affray, and for driving without insurance in 1991. The following year, he faced another conviction for driving while disqualified and for driving without insurance once again. In 2004, he was convicted of battery and threatening behaviour, and in 2007 he received his 5th conviction, this time for assault. Bridger appeared to be a highly inconsistent man, struggling to maintain steady employment for long periods, and facing a long history of failed relationships. He had a broad range of jobs such as stints as an abattoir worker, a hotel porter, a fireman, lifeguard, mechanic and welder, but none of these seemed to work out for him in the long run. The day before April's disappearance, his current girlfriend had ended their relationship, possibly due to his ongoing struggle with alcoholism. The police also identified the vehicle that he drove, a left-handed Land Rover. Listing Mark as a person of interest, the police began watching him closely. On the morning of October 2nd, 2012, just a day after April's abduction, a police helicopter spotted Mark walking his dog. What struck the authorities as interesting was his unusual behaviour. He never once glanced up at the helicopter, an instinctive response when an aircraft is in the sky above you. I don't know about you, but I can't help but look. This suggested he was aware of the possibility of being watched, but he was trying to play it too cool, and he might have had something to hide. Police officers were dispatched to his residence to see whether April might be held there. Upon entering Mark's home, they were met with strange conditions. The interior was uncomfortably warm. A blazing fire roared in the fireplace. This was even though Mark wasn't there. A strong odour of bleach hung in the air. It was impossible to overlook the fact that the house had been heavily cleaned, and this was done just moments before their arrival. The mounting evidence, Mark's suspicious behaviour, and his ownership of the left-handed vehicle led to his arrest on October 2nd, 2012 on suspicion of abduction. The moment he was caught, he said, "I know what this is about." During police questioning, Bridger admitted his involvement in April's disappearance, but his account of events were quite different from the eyewitness testimony of April's 7-year-old friend. Bridger claimed that he accidentally hit April with his car.
All of the evidence suggests that you have abducted April.
It happened exactly the way I'm telling you. I did not abduct April. I don't know where she is. Yesterday, I came down to see my daughter's teacher. She had a parents' evening. And I then parked up opposite my girlfriend's house, which I believe is not far away from April's mother and father's house. Stupid. I'd had a few to drink, and there was 2 girls on their bikes. I remember the dark-headed girl came behind the car. I looked to see where the other girl was, and I couldn't see this other little girl. And the next minute, the bike was there. I started the car up. As I went to pull away, the car, there wasn't a thud. I can't understand. The car rose up. As I opened the car, I walked round. And underneath the front of the car is now, I know to be April. She was only little. So I picked her up and I put her across my seat and put her in what is the offside seat, the passenger seat. Tried to take her pulse. And there was nothing. I put my mouth over her mouth and went to blow, put my hand back on her chest. And that's when I realised one side of her chest wasn't there. I'd obviously crushed her little body. So I then drove out of Brinnegorg. I remember driving down the back road. My intention was to get her medical help. I ended up at the monument in Mac.
So what have you done there then, Mark?
I've then gone down by the railway station. I've turned round, I'm at the clock. And I remember her still being in the car. And that's when I realised
It's okay, Mark.
the colour had gone out of her.
Okay,
Her
right.
lips were purple. Hall and Coral are friends of mine. And I've killed their daughter.
So when you've got to the monument,
Yes.
is she in the car?
I'm trying to jog my memory to know what I've done.
Okay, it's okay, Mark.
The next minute, I'm in my house, and she's not there. Been upstairs, and I can't find her. I wouldn't have ditched her. I know that. I wouldn't have. I'd have put her somewhere, but I can't remember what I've done.
We need to find her.
I don't know where I've put her.
I'm going to stop the tape now. It's 18:45. Okay.
Which led him to pick her up and put her in a car because her injuries were too severe. He claimed that he had attempted CPR but soon realised it was too late to save her life. This version of events, however, was in direct contradiction to the young friend's statement. She had told the police that April willingly got into the car with no mention of an accident.
And you tell me that when you get out of your vehicle, that you look underneath the vehicle and you see April.
Yes.
We have a witness that was present. This person says April got into the Land Rover via the driver's door, which on a normal car would be the right-hand side, but that's really the passenger side door on your car.
That is complete fabrication and lies. It can't have happened.
Mark, is it a case that what you're telling us didn't quite happen?
It happened exactly the way I'm telling you. That person is lying. I did not abduct April. I'd like you to go away and do the tests on the car.
You mentioned earlier about hiding her from the rain.
I wouldn't have buried her. I would have covered her or put her somewhere under shelter.
Are there locations that are personal and private to you that you would have laid April?
There's a cycle track just above my house. But I most certainly don't recollect being up there.
The time by my watch is 2200 hours. This is going to be the final interview for tonight.
Yes.
It's been a tough day. Okay.
Obviously, she hasn't been found yet.
No, she hasn't been found. We need to bring her home.
I know. If I really honestly knew where she was, I would tell you.
We've only got your version of events. We've only got your word to say that you run her over and that you've killed her.
I can promise you that she's not alive. I can't change my story. It's what happened that night.
Mark, We don't want her to suffer anymore.
Following Mark Bridger's confession, the police pressed him for information on the whereabouts of April's body. He claimed that on the day of her disappearance, he had been drinking heavily and he was too intoxicated to remember where he had placed her. He insisted that he had acted in a panicked, drunken state when he had disposed of her body. While the police had their doubts about Bridger's account, he had no apparent motive to lie about April being deceased. They passed on this horrifying information to the family. This left them in a state of shock and sorrow. Despite their pain, they desperately wanted to discover the truth about what had happened to their April. With this, the police initiated a search for April's body. Specially trained cadaver dogs were deployed to comb through ditches, rivers and forests, all while Mark Bridger remained in custody. Meanwhile, forensic examinations were carried out in Bridger's cottage home. The examination revealed evidence of a clean-up, particularly in the bathroom area. On October 5, 2012, the police officially reclassified the case as a murder inquiry. They now had reason to believe that April Jones was no longer alive. You may remember I mentioned earlier that upon entry into Mark's house, the police had noticed the unusual warmth caused by the fire. This prompted a closer examination of the fireplace, and there, bone fragments were discovered. These fragments were put under forensic scrutiny. They were later confirmed to be human. The police began to piece together a theory. Mark had taken April's life and disposed of her body by burning it in his own fireplace. After incinerating her remains, he had scattered the ashes and bone fragments across various locations in the town. These included rivers, ditches, and forest areas. As forensic investigators continued to search the cottage, they made another discovery. Due to their minuscule size, these particles couldn't be definitively linked to another person. However, a substantial amount of blood was found near the fireplace, suggesting that April had suffered great harm within that cottage. To gather more evidence, all of Mark's possessions, including his phone and laptop, were seized for examination. It was during the scrutiny of his laptop that the police had stumbled upon a discovery and a motive that they had dreaded. On the day of April's disappearance, he had been sending messages to multiple unknown women online, inviting them for drinks. In the hours leading up to the abduction, Bridger had been viewing indecent images of minors, watching violent, explicit videos, and even looking at explicit cartoons depicting children. He had also saved pictures of April and her older sister Jasmine on his laptop. This was so he could view them whenever he wanted. The revelation of Mark's secrets discredited his first account of an accident. This pretty much proved it to be one major lie. It strongly suggested that his motive for April's murder was likely carnal in nature. On October 6th, Mark Bridger was officially charged with child abduction, with murder, and attempting to pervert the course of justice. He made an appearance before magistrates in Aberystwyth on October 8th. There he faced the additional charge of the unlawful concealment and disposal of a body. He was put into custody and held at HMP Manchester, pending an appearance at court which took place on October 10th. As the case unfolded, it was revealed that 2 years before April's murder, Mark Bridger had attempted to contact April's older sister Jasmine when she was just 14 years old through Facebook. Not recognizing him, Jasmine asked why he was trying to message her. Bridger replied, "I am friends with your dad, Paul." Puzzled by this response, Jasmine asked her father about this man who claimed to be his friend. Paul, her father, was equally surprised. Up to that point, his interactions with Bridger had been limited to occasional greetings when they passed each other in the street, and to his recollection, nothing more. Despite the mounting evidence against him, Mark Bridger clung to his story that April's death had been an accident. However, the police had now gathered enough evidence to lock him up for the abduction and murder of April Jones. The trial began on April 29, 2013. Mark Bridger pleaded not guilty. He took the stand, maintaining his version of events as an accident. The jury was presented with tons of evidence against him, including blood evidence, bone fragments, and his fixation on inappropriate content involving minors. During the trial, Bridger attempted to convince the jury that he had those indecent images on his laptop because he was trying to educate his own children about the different stages of growth and development. He claimed he genuinely believed that viewing violent, explicit content was a way to teach his children about their teenage years. On May 13, 2013, Mark Bridger, at the age of 46, was found guilty of the abduction and murder of April Jones. He was also convicted of attempting to pervert the course of justice, of disposing of and concealing April's body. Mark Bridger received a life sentence in prison with a recommendation that he should never be released. To this day, he has never admitted his guilt or provided details of what transpired on that day. This leaves April's family with unanswered questions and the pain of never truly knowing the full extent of the circumstances surrounding April's death. On September 26, 2013, just 5 days before the first anniversary of April's death, her funeral was finally held. Hundreds of people gathered to support the grieving family and to pay their respects. In November 2013, Mark Bridger's cottage was purchased by the Welsh government. It was then subsequently demolished. The removal of this painful reminder brought a sense of relief to April's family, making sure that they wouldn't be constantly confronted with the place where April had met her end, having to see it on a daily basis. April Millsap was born on January 2, 2000 in Wise County, Virginia. She was born to her mother Jennifer Millsap and her father Bobby. April grew up in the small town of Armada, which is about 1 hour north of Detroit. April attended school at Krause Elementary, and everybody who knew her described her as friendly, as compassionate and intelligent. She loved writing short stories, poetry, and she had a love of animals. Sometime during April's early life, her mother Jennifer, a woman who had a speech impediment, remarried. April's stepfather was David Lichtenfeld, a man who doted after April like she was his own daughter. There are dozens of pictures of the two of them sharing tender moments. These spanned throughout her young and early teenage years. David also taught April how to fight. At 14 years old, April Millsap was looking forward to the rest of her life. She had just wrapped up middle school, and she was now preparing to start at Armada High School in the fall of 2014. At this age, she now had a boyfriend. She had an affectionate dog named Penny, and she was surrounded by friends and family who knew and loved her dearly. Armada, Michigan is a small town with under 2,000 people. It was a type of place where everybody knew everybody. The Armada police force comprised of an elderly chief, a man named Howard Smith, and his deputy. Just 10 or so part-time deputies supplemented the active duty officers, but on most days, the sleepy town didn't need it. The only crimes that ever happened in Armada were the occasional theft or some illicit substance use. Most Armada citizens felt safe leaving their doors unlocked at night. Armada was the type of small town that you moved to when you wanted to start a family. But after Thursday, April 24th, 2014, all of that changed. April sat down to a crunch salad lunch and received an affectionate back rub from her stepfather. This was before he headed out the door for his night job. They exchanged goodbyes as he left, and at around 5:30 p.m. she went for an evening stroll with her dog, Penny. They walked along the Macomb Orchard Trail, a popular hiking trail in Armada. As they walked, they enjoyed each other's company as they always did, before a man on a motorcycle rode up to them. "I think I almost got kidnapped, OMFG. April frantically texted her boyfriend after encountering a mysterious man on the Orchard Trail. He had ridden up to her on his blue and white motorcycle and wore a helmet. The man tried propositioning April, but she rebuffed him and doubled back the way she'd come. A man on a walk with his 2 young daughters witnessed the entire exchange. But even with their presence, April did not feel safe. She sent a text message to her boyfriend at around 6:30 p.m. Here she shared what had happened. However, April didn't get a reply from him before tragedy struck. The mysterious man found April once again, but this time he refused to take no for an answer. He snuck up on her and swung at her head with his motorcycle helmet. This attack understandably floored April. She hadn't seen it coming. Then he dragged her off the path and ripped off her clothes. He attempted to take her, but April fought back. When April's resistance proved too much, he struck her with his motorcycle helmet, then shoved her to the dirt and stomped on her neck. He didn't let up his foot until April had permanently stopped breathing. Devoted dog Penny, who'd found April's body, bolted away down the trail. When April did not return home that evening, Jennifer Millsap texted her daughter to find out where she was. After 3 to 4 unanswered texts, she called her phone. However, it now went to voicemail. The mother grew increasingly concerned. She called the only person who might know where April was, her boyfriend. He hadn't seen her, but revealed helpful information that alarmed Jennifer more than anything else. He'd received that text message from April, the one that said, "I think I almost got kidnapped." Jennifer called stepfather David, sobbing and telling him that April was missing. David left work immediately and rushed home to Jennifer. They hopped into the car and went into town searching for their daughter. After hours of failing to find April, they called the Armada police and told them that April was missing. After word spread that April was now missing, thousands of tips began to flow in. One was from the father who'd seen the strange motorcyclist talking with April. The police immediately began to investigate this mystery man. But before they could find him, a 911 call came in. At 8:30 p.m, a couple came across Penny at the intersection of Fulton and Depot Street. At first, they thought he was a stray, but on their way back from their walk, they heard Penny whimper and whine, and it occurred to them that she might be trying to tell them something. So they followed Penny, and it led them deep into the woods. There they found clothing scattered around. At first they thought it was just trash, but then they saw her. April lay on the ground with most of her clothes removed. She had a deep shoe print on her neck. They weren't able to tell her age or identity because they refused to get closer to the body. This is that 911 call.
911?
Yeah, I'm fairly certain we just found a body along the mountain bike trail.
Okay, where are you at?
We are between Olmo and North Avenue. It's in Armada. There's a subdivision. You know the name of the street from the subdivision? It's by the new construction. Kind of.
Okay.
If you guys come down to Olmo and stop at the bike trail and head back west, I can meet with somebody there.
Okay, so you're going to meet where it crosses Olmo?
Yes.
Okay, it looks like GPS is putting you a lot closer to Fulton Street, which is
yeah, I can meet you guys at Fulton as well. We're kind of right in the middle. Or if you take if you take 4 until it ends at the water department, I can meet you right there.
Okay. What hold on one second. Is it a male or a female?
Female.
About how old do you think she is?
I didn't get that close.
Okay. Is she on the trail?
No, she's off of the trail, tucked back into the woods. Her clothes are all taken off.
Okay, and you don't believe she's breathing?
I don't believe so, no.
What's your last name?
S-A-D.
Yeah, please. First name? Okay. You're going to meet them at Fulton, right?
Floral would be closer. There's Counter Park right at the...
Floral?
Yep. Floral and Depot. They've got...
Okay. Okay, we'll have them meet you at Floral and Depot.
Okay.
Okay?
Alright, thank you.
Thanks, bye.
In mere minutes, the news quickly spread around the town that the body had been found on the Orchard Trail. Upon hearing the news, Jennifer attended the scene. All the way there, she hoped it wasn't April, but she was heartbroken on arrival.
Love your kids. Never take for granted anything. Tell your kids you love them.
Barely believing what has happened in their small town.
Just pray. That's all I can say is pray.
The village of Armada, stunned to learn the young girl found dead Thursday evening along Macomb Orchard Trail, was one of their own. 14-year-old April Millsap murdered.
To find out someone would do this is just unbelievable. I can't understand it.
Stuff like this happens, but you never expect it to happen like near where you live.
Police say Millsap left her Armada home just after 5 Thursday afternoon to walk the trail with her dog, something she did every day.
Normally she's out for about 35 to 45 minutes with the dog. She was out for about an hour and a half. The mother became alarmed.
During a mother's panic, joggers noticing a border collie running in and out of a wooded area along the trail.
When April Millsap's body was found, her beloved dog Penny was still there guarding her, the only known witness to a horrific murder.
Penny loved April. Whenever April came out of her room in the morning, she was there.
Upon examination, the coroner's office stated that she died of asphyxia. This was from her windpipe being crushed. As well as this, the blunt force trauma caused by the helmet left an indentation on her skin post-mortem. Police ruled April's death as murder, the first in Armada in 40 years. Michigan State Police and the FBI were called in to help Armada's small police department. Police ransacked the crime scene, bagging shoes, clothes, hair, and every stray piece of evidence. There were 188 exhibits when they were done, but none of them had the DNA, fingerprints, hair, fibers, or fluids of the killer. Oddly though, April's phone and bag were not found at her location, but some distance away.
As detectives continue to investigate tips and leads into who killed 14-year-old April Millsap, we're getting a clearer picture of what kind of person she was. We're told she was a young woman of faith who was kind to all around her, and that's making her death more difficult for loved ones to understand. The chorus of voices lifting up song and prayer, proof that a beloved teenager left a lasting impression in this community.
April was the kindest girl anyone could meet. She was friends with everyone, and she had a wonderful and beautiful personality.
More than 200 people gathered at St. Mary Mystical Rose Church in Armada to remember 14-year-old April Millsap. Her body discovered by joggers Thursday night near the trail April knew so well. The shock of the news still fresh several days later.
To be here and be strong for the kids of this parish, it's a difficult day for all of us.
April's school friends hang on to their best memories.
Her smile. She had a gorgeous smile. She was a gorgeous young lady. Even on her bad days, she would try to make everyone else around here feel better. And, you know, that's one of the things I'll never forget about her.
As family members hope and pray for clues of who killed April and why. April's grandfather in Florida tells 7 Action News he doesn't think April was a random target.
It would help us find the culprit, and we certainly kind of feel like it's somebody that she knew.
Police are still searching for 2 men spotted in this gray box van that was seen circling the area April's body was found.
The police turned their attention back to the person of interest, the man spotted by the father of 2. They switched their focus, looking for new leads. However, at this time, nothing new came in. They had the witness who'd spotted the mystery man sit down with an artist. Together, they created a composite sketch which they released to the public. The Evening News declared the mystery man a person of interest and potentially the last person who'd seen April alive. They had already ruled out the family, the boyfriend, and anybody else who'd seen April that day. All they had left was the man on the motorbike, and it wouldn't take long for them to find out exactly who it was. An officer spotted a motorcycle that matched the witness's description. They traced it to a nearby township called Wales. It was the home of a father and son, James Van Calitz Sr. and James Van Calitz Jr. James Sr. was a registered offender. But this time, the police were not there for him. Instead, they were there for his 33-year-old son, James Jr. James's facial features were a strong match for the sketch that had been compiled. They attempted to contact James to bring him in for questioning, but he was unresponsive, giving them probable cause for a warrant. On July the 30th, they stormed James's house looking for evidence to tie him to April's murder, but they find no evidence directly connecting him to April. What the police did find, though, was illicit substances. Therefore, they arrested James Jr. for possession, but they did not doubt he was also responsible for April's demise. All they had to do now was prove it. The evidence they were looking for came from an unusual but all the same reliable source. It was April's phone. She had a fitness app on since the moment she left the house. It tracked her location and the steps that she covered. When they overlaid it with the precise location data from Google Earth, FBI agents were able to recreate the last 63 minutes of her life. The data showed that she had left the house. She travelled 3.6 miles an hour, and she headed to the trail. She completed her walk and was returning to town when she must have encountered Van Callis. Shortly after, at around 6:28, she sent the message to her boyfriend. Moments after the text, her steps formed several zigzag patterns. The police assumed this was signs of the struggle.
An FBI investigator who examined April Millsap's phone was able to pinpoint every step of her final 63 minutes for the jury. Data from a workout app shows her traveling at about 3.6 miles an hour through town. Then the Orchard Trail. Just before doubling back, the track zigzags in a circular fashion.
Then there were 3 outgoing calls at 6:21, 6:22 and 6:23. The location of these calls was where April's body was found. She tried to call for help in her final moments. If it were not for the next actions that Van Callis took, they might have never connected him to April's murder. Shortly after her demise, her cell phone started moving at over 13 miles per hour before abruptly stopping. They found April's phone where the app stopped, and they combed through CCTV in the direction that the motorcycle was heading. They found Van Callis at a gas station, not far from the location where April's cell phone had pinged, and with that, the police had him. That was what clinched it for me, Police Head Smith said. It was enough information to go to trial, and the people of Armada rejoiced at the news. The town adored April. They all stood in solidarity, mourning her passing. They erected shrines, wore pink clothes, and tied bows. Pink was April's favourite colour, after all. Van Callis was also no hero to the people of Armada. He was popular with the criminal elements of the town, and had been previously charged with robbery, along with the refusal to pay child support in 2005 and 2006. After a preliminary hearing, James Van Callis Jr. was charged with a long list of crimes. This included first-degree murder for the death of April. His trial began in early March after being denied bail. This was due to his prior illicit substance charge and extensive history with the courts. And despite the prosecution being sure of themselves, they had a hard time proving James Van Callis had killed April. After all, there was no DNA evidence connecting him to the scene of the crime. This was a fact that the prosecution hammered on again and again. His attorney, Azar Sheikh, cast doubt on whether James was even at the location at all. The police found no tyre tracks or tread prints except the one on April's neck, a mark allegedly caused by a shoe. Just as it was beginning to look like James could walk away unpunished, the prosecution called a surprise witness that turned James's defense upside down. This witness was his ex-girlfriend. She had some interesting things to say about the night that April Millsap died. Crystal Stadler was living with Van Callis around the time that April was killed. She said that Van Callis was out of the house during the window that the police estimated the murder occurred, and when he returned home later that night, he was acting weird. She woke up in the middle of the night to see him cleaning his shoes with disinfectant. She thought this was strange since her boyfriend never washed his shoes, and this wasn't really something you do in the middle of the night. When Vancalis Jr. climbed back into bed, he told Crystal that he'd messed up and needed her to stay by his side.
Does he say anything to you when he comes back to bed?
Yeah, that he messed up and he needed me to stand by his side.
Stadler's testimony gets worse for Vancalis, saying he asked her to wash his clothes, something that never happened. And
did you find something unusual in the Carhartt jacket after you washed it?
Yeah.
What was it that you found?
Like wadded up hair and like shavings of grass or like hay.
Hair that she says belonged to a person, not an animal. And then Stadler says Vancalis asked everybody in the house to lie about what kind of shoes he had on the day the young girl was killed.
What was he telling to everybody in the house?
To tell him that he was wearing K-Swiss shoes.
Was he wearing K-Swiss shoes that night?
No.
The shoe model that he'd been cleaning up had a tread. This tread matched up closely to the marks left on April's body. While the particular shoe was not found in Vancalis' home during their search, the prosecution proved that he had those particular brand of shoes by showing a video Vancalis Jr. had recorded on his cell phone earlier on that year. Things got much worse for Vancalis when his partner discussed what he asked her to do next. James asked her to wash his clothes, which, according to Crystal, never happened. But she did agree to carry out the task. However, before doing so, she went through the trousers and found clumps of human hair and grass shavings. James Vancalis Jr. was found guilty by the jury. However, he didn't give up the fight. He said the following in his closing statement: "There is no evidence that shows that I did anything wrong. There's nobody that can identify that my motorcycle was on the trail that day. None of the witnesses could positively identify me. They said they saw eyes. How many people have eyes that are that shape? This is a sad chain of events that I'm somehow wrapped up in. I don't know her. I've never met her." April's mother also had the opportunity to confront James. She rounded her speech off with a strong phrase: "I pity you, and I hate you, and I can never forgive you." On March the 30th, 2016, James Vancalis Jr. was sentenced to life without parole, something which was met with jubilation, cheers and claps of April's friends and family. Over 200 people gathered at St. Mary Mystical Rose Church to say a final goodbye to April after the trial was finally over.
"911, what's your emergency?" My daughter, I woke up this morning and she's not in her bed. She's missing. She's 8 years old. Has she ever left before? No, never.
Kirsten Hatfield, a vibrant soul, entered the world in 1989 in Midwest City, Oklahoma. She was affectionately known as Curdle Birdle. Kirsten's youthful spirit radiated with a zest for adventure and the thrill of life's exciting moments. She was a true enthusiast, finding joy in roller coasters, of climbing trees and competitive games of horseshoes. Kirsten's love for life and her family was unmistakable. Even at the tender age of 5, when her baby sister Faith was born, she formed a protective and unbreakable bond with Faith, fostering a family connection that promised a life filled with fun, togetherness and security. Kirsten cherished her home as a sanctuary, where she could revel in the warmth of her family's love and the simple joys of everyday life. By the age of 8, she was attending the 2nd grade at Traub Elementary School. There, Kirsten's infectious spirit touched the lives of all those fortunate enough to be around her. Midwest City is situated in central Oklahoma, which is in, if you couldn't guess, the Midwestern region of the United States. One of the city's defining features is the presence of the Tinker Air Force Base. This is one of the largest military installations in the United States. It plays a vital role in the local economy and the community. Another feature of Midwest City is its reputation as a family-friendly community with a strong sense of safety and security. The area offers a range of amenities and services for families. This makes it overall an attractive place to live. The city hosts a variety of community events and gatherings, fostering a sense of togetherness among residents. These events include parades, fairs, and festivals. Overall, Midwest City is a community with a strong family presence and family-oriented values, a place where no one would fathom a vicious crime occurring. On the night of May 13, 1997, Kirsten's mother Shannon performed her nightly ritual of tucking her beloved daughters into their beds. With Kirsten and Faith settled in, Shannon looked forward to a peaceful night's sleep, a night that could be filled with dreams of the life that they shared. However, the quiet of the night was soon disrupted by a subtle sound, an unsettling disturbance in the otherwise sleeping household. At around 3 a.m., Shannon was awakened from her sleep by a soft whining noise. This was coming from the girl's bedroom. At first, Shannon attributed the sound to Faith. She had, after all, occasionally talked in her sleep. Trusting that her children were safe and sound, Shannon attempted to return to sleep. Yet a feeling of unease lingered, and something didn't sit right. In response, she rose from her bed and made her way to the girl's bedroom. To her surprise, the bedroom door was closed. This was different from the norm. Typically, Kirsten and Faith slept with the door open just a crack, inviting the comforting hum of the house into the room as they slept. Mother Shannon gently pushed the door open and returned to her bed without going inside, not realizing that this seemingly innocent event would mark the beginning of a mystery, one that would haunt her for years to come. When the sun rose over Midwest City the following morning at around 6 a.m., Shannon went into Kirsten's bedroom to wake the girls up. As she stepped into her daughter's room, she made a heart-wrenching discovery. Although Faith was in the room, Kirsten was nowhere to be found. Shannon's immediate response was a surge of panic and distress. Desperation guided her frantic search as she darted back and forth between the neighbouring houses, her voice carrying pleas for help and calls for her missing daughter. She scoured every nearby area that she could, searching for any sign of her dear Kirsten. Eventually, after an agonizing but fruitless search of the surrounding area, Shannon returned to her home. The mother then desperately dialed 911, setting in motion a huge citywide investigation.
911, what's your emergency? My daughter, I woke up this morning and she's not in her bed. She's missing. She's 8 years old. Has she ever left before? No, never. My 3-year-old was crying. The door was shut. I just went and opened it. I didn't even look to see she was there. And then I went back to bed.
Investigators from the Midwest City Police Department would soon arrive at the anxiety-ridden home on Jet Drive. Their search for clues began almost immediately. A missing child is one of the most time-sensitive cases that there is. Police officers entered the house and swiftly began searching, looking for any sign of where Kirsten could have gone, and what they found was chilling. The bedroom window, although closed, was unlocked, suggesting that an intruder might have entered or exited through it. Their focus then turned to the windowsill. There they discovered several spots of red fluid. This discovery immediately caused the investigation to intensify. Concerns for Kirsten's safety grew rapidly. The search extended into the backyard, and there a 6-foot-tall wooden fence became the next point of interest. Here, officers found more traces of red liquid, further cementing the fear that Kirsten might have been the subject of harm, perhaps being injured as she was aggressively taken from her bedroom through the window. Investigators were deeply troubled. They realized the gravity of the situation that had occurred in this close-knit community. As the search continued, officers stumbled upon another crucial clue: Kirsten's underwear, tattered, torn, and lying amongst blades of grass in the backyard of the Hatfield home. This discovery, alongside the other evidence, deepened the sense of worry that something sinister had occurred the night before, bringing horror into the Hatfield home. Almost positive an abduction had taken place, law enforcement swung into action without pause. They reached out to local businesses, urging them to hand over any surveillance footage from that night. They lived in hope that they could identify the mysterious abductor and trace their movements. One piece of surveillance footage in particular caught their attention from a nearby convenience store. As they combed through the footage, they watched as a man entered the store. He asked the cashier about Jet Drive, the very same street where Kirsten and her family lived. This was the first lead that they had, but they had no idea where to begin in their search for this man. From the footage, they could glean a basic description, but nothing that could give them a solid direction to go in. Meanwhile, word quickly spread to the community that Kirsten Hatfield was now missing, and that this was an urgent case. Time was of the essence. The urgency of her disappearance gripped everyone surrounding the Hatfields. They immediately clamoured round and began organising a search party. The assistance of the Heidi Search Centre from Texas was sought out to boost their efforts. Missing person flyers which described Kirsten rolled out onto the streets. These flyers described her as a young girl standing at 4 feet tall and weighing 55 pounds. A girl with deep brown eyes that matched her long brown hair. The outfit she was last seen wearing was a big, adult-sized white t-shirt. The flyer was complete with specific markers to look out for. This was such as the fact that she had discoloration on her neck and stuttered when she spoke too fast. The collective efforts of the community, law enforcement and dedicated search teams were all mobilised together in efforts to locate Kirsten. Volunteers combed the area tirelessly, but days continued to pass without any promising leads or developments. This situation had investigators perplexed. Their frustration only increased with each passing day. Captain Cecil Frymere, the lead investigator on the case, had no idea where to go next. The police force didn't have nearly enough leads or evidence to go in on one distinct direction, and new information was drying up. The evidence they had found at the scene was indeed helpful, but they had to patiently wait for the test results to return before they could do anything. The community and Kirsten's family anxiously awaited for a breakthrough, anything that could bring their beloved child back home and well. In the following week, the excitement of new evidence flickered. Some children's clothing was discovered near northeast Oklahoma City. The police force quickly made their way to the location to collect these items, hoping that they could perhaps be a clue or a lead in Kirsten's case. However, upon close examination, it was determined that these garments were not Kirsten's. This stifled the hopes of her mother and investigators, putting them back to square one. As June arrived, a month had passed since Kirsten had vanished from her bedroom. The Heidi Search Centre concluded its involvement in the search. However, Kirsten's mother and the rest of the Midwest City community refused to give up hope. They established a command post at Traub Elementary School, and they continued their search efforts in coordination with the Midwest City Police Department. The determined search team scoured every corner of the city, giving every ounce of dedication they had towards the cause. But these extensive searches yielded no evidence or leads, nothing new that could bring them any closer to finding Kirsten. Kirsten's mother Shannon was overwhelmed with gratitude as the community stepped up to help in finding her daughter. She thanked everyone for participating and giving their time in the search for Kirsten, saying that the tragedy that was occurring showed a community spirit that was unwavering in coming together to help. As the community continued to work together, investigators remained steadfast in their quest to identify the man who had inquired about Jet Drive at the convenience store. Described as a tall black man, approximately 6 feet 2 inches tall and weighing around 230 pounds, he was last seen wearing a blue and white striped shirt along with a matching baseball cap. With this description, police struggled to find any defining features or characteristics, nothing obvious that could help them narrow down the search for this man. Without anything else to go on, this lead too would grow cold. Weeks turned into months and Kirsten's absence persisted. Mother Shannon was exhausted and disheartened, but she refused to surrender her hope that her daughter would safely return. The passage of time never wavered her determination to find Kirsten. By July, the ground searches had ceased. It became evident that Kirsten was nowhere within the immediate area. They'd searched in lakes, patches of woods, parks, and even on the Air Force Base. But there was absolutely no further trace of Kirsten. However, officers did not give up on a search for evidence, or the hope that at least one person had information on what could have happened to Kirsten 2 months before. The initial discovery of red fluid on the windowsill and the fence made the case even darker. Upon further testing, it was confirmed that this did not belong to Kirsten. Investigators began to shift their focus away from this evidence as any type of help in their case. They began to wonder where they could turn next. Shannon did her best to remain as honest as possible with officers throughout their investigation. She wanted to be clear regarding her behaviour during Kirsten's disappearance. She candidly admitted that she had been a user of illicit substances, insisting that she had never done it around her children and that she had only done it socially. She also acknowledged that her associations with others that used illegal substances could have potentially made her and therefore her daughter a target. Shannon admitted to the fact that she wasn't a perfect mother, saying that if her involvement with users was the reason why Kirsten was gone, then she was indeed guilty. Police had thought all along that Kirsten was abducted by someone close to her or her family in some way. This included relatives and any friends of the family, so therefore it included Shannon's less than upstanding friends. Their rationale was based on the idea that a stranger would likely have encountered difficulty in quietly carrying Kirsten out of the window, and then over the fence without causing a commotion. Several people close to the Hatfield family, including other family members, underwent polygraph examinations, and some of them even failed to pass. But these examinations did not yield enough evidence to bring charges against anyone. The lack of any definitive proof of what had occurred, making the investigation almost impossible to solve. As the months turned into years, Kirsten's family grappled with the heart-wrenching absence of their daughter. Their lives were forever altered by the inexplicable void left by Kirsten's disappearance, burning with the knowledge that it would likely never be solved. Time had passed, but the questions surrounding her whereabouts continued to haunt them. Childhood photos of Kirsten were aged with technology. The idea of this was to reflect what she might look like now as a teenager and a young adult. However, no sightings would ever be reported. The community had begun to move on without Kirsten in their lives, and her family eventually did their best to follow.
Lois Grigsby lives 2 doors down from where little Kirsten lived back in 1997.
It brings tears to my eyes, just even knowing that the little girl had come up abducted, out of that house.
Not just heartache, but also fear for her own children.
When she told me that, I literally took the air conditioner out of his window and nailed the window shut.
A few doors down, Jennifer Meeks, new to the street and to motherhood, was shocked to hear her neighborhood's past.
Oh my God, that's very scary. That's very scary because we got a little 9-month-old.
Today, the search continues for the next tip, next sighting, next lead for the little girl who would be 26 today.
She was never found, so it's possible she is still alive. Different people have different feelings on that.
In June of 2015, nearly 20 years after Kirsten vanished, a fresh perspective arrived when a new investigator joined the Midwest City Police Department. This diligent investigator, with the knowledge of the latest advancements in DNA technology, decided to review the cold case of Kirsten Hatfield. It became evident that there were critical pieces of evidence that had not been subjected to DNA testing, along with some other evidence that could benefit from re-examination using newer forensic tools. This breakthrough signaled a renewed hope for answers and for justice in Kirsten's case. With the case re-sparked by forensic technology, the new investigators at the police station decided to revisit everyone they had questioned way back in the original case and request a DNA sample from each. One of these men was Anthony Joseph Palmer. He lived just 2 doors down from the Hatfields on Jet Drive. Investigators visited his home that he lived in with his now wife. He married her a short time after Kirsten's abduction. When questioned about his reactions to the case, Palmer's wife revealed that her husband still harbored strong emotions when the case was mentioned, saying that it was especially hard to deal with as she had disappeared so close to their home. When questioned about his involvement in Kirsten's disappearance, Anthony denied any wrongdoing, and he did agree to provide a DNA swab for testing. Everyone they had questioned back in 1997 who had agreed to give a sample was swiftly tested against the DNA found on the windowsill and on the fence of Kirsten's home. The analysis of Anthony Palmer's DNA revealed an astonishing match with the DNA found at the crime scene. The probability of this match was estimated at 1 in 293 sextillion. This made it basically impossible to be anyone else's DNA. This proved that the new technology was exactly what officers needed to catch a break. Palmer's DNA was found to be a match on Kirsten's underwear discovered in the backyard, as well as on her bedroom windowsill. As a result of this compelling evidence that had finally been collected, Tony Palmer was arrested in October of 2015, marking a huge development in the case and a major step towards seeking justice for Kirsten.
Tell you anymore, I drink a lot of water. I had some stomach issues and the doc says drink water. It really helps with the indigestion real bad. It's just chewing. I thank you for coming down here to talk to us.
Well, as a state employee, it's something we have to do.
Well,
we have to abide by all
we appreciate
law enforcement and all that.
And here's where we're kind of bad. We're still looking at the Preston Hatfield thing, and we're going back and we're talking to a lot of people. And I know over the years,
you weren't there the first time they came down, were you?
No. I was with Miller the last time we came to talk to you about the other deal. You, over 17 years, I know in my life, I've changed a lot. And so we wanted to talk to you about if you can kind of tell me 17 years ago how your life was, how that neighborhood was, what was going on in that neighborhood. I know I've read some of the reports that from the interviews before and how it appears to me that they call you Uncle Tony around there because you care about the kids. You were feeding some of the kids.
Yeah. Basically, when I lived there, there was a bunch of older people. That was like not a no retirement place, but most of the people in that area were old retirees.
Yeah.
And, I like doing stuff all the time. I was always outside, and if somebody's working on their vehicle, got to go be busybody, and help them, or somebody's washing machine was broke down, and the older people, they can't, older people, can't do stuff. And I've always been mechanically inclined, where I could figure stuff out, or help them move this, or, I've always been, I don't know about friendly, but neighborly.
Right.
And that being my first home,
right.
I tried to make it where that neighborhood was my home.
Yeah. Well, did you help any of the kids over there?
Well, when
feed them pizza.
Yeah, there's always, that's
my
pet.
Kool-Aid house?
Well, I don't know about Kool-Aid. That's always been my pet peeve is I grew up hungry. And there's a lot of kids hungry. Yeah. And I don't like that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not where I'd go down on my way, hey, you hungry? But I mean, you see kids, you're over there eating something, and they're just,
right.
You see them draw it,
right.
Here, take it.
Right.
I can't stand that.
That's one of the stories I want to turn my phone off so people will leave me alone. Before we get started here, Tony, let me go ahead and I want to read you your Miranda warning, okay? You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have the right to talk to a lawyer and have him present with you while you're being questioned. If you cannot afford to hire a lawyer, one will be appointed to represent you before any questioning if you wish one. And if you decide to make a statement, you can stop at any time. And do you understand each of those rights I've explained to you? Having those rights in mind, do you wish to talk to us? Yes. Do you mind just initially kind of take us back to 1997 and go back over that, maybe that evening before and into that morning when all of it all kind of started blowing up, and just best you can tell us everything you remember. And take your time. I know we're going back some years.
Yeah, I'm starting to get that old timer stuff. But really, the only thing I can really remember is afterwards. When 'cause it was just a typical day. Got off work, went home, had supper, watched TV. Because used to being a landscaper, my yard was my pride. Mm-hmm. Everybody wanted to play in my yard because my yard was nothing but Bermuda. I just had Bermuda grass.
Sure.
But not that they came over there, but that's what I did. I always worked on my yard.
Mm-hmm. And back then you said you were working at the Capitol?
Yes.
So, okay. So you were very experienced at keeping the yard up.
Oh, yeah. I, got chemical license, all that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Do you remember anything about the day or evening before? You said it was just a typical day. You worked all day and then went home. You remember anything unusual about that evening that stands out to you?
No, other than what I told them about, seeing the white truck, in front of the white Chevy truck in front of their yard.
Okay.
Like I said, I didn't have anything to do with those people. Didn't know them at all. Okay. It's not like I went, hey, yeah, you got little girls. No, it wasn't nothing like that. Okay. I was outside working on my yard, either talking to the neighbors or kid would come by, Tony, can you fix my bike? Stuff like that. Mm-hmm. It wasn't like I'd tell them to come over or anything. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't go to other people's houses unless, I was needed or something like that. But everybody just got, oh, Tony will fix your bike and blah, 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 And I tried to make it feel like, that was kind of a safe place, for, Because I had Tristy at the time. She wasn't there during that time. But I had Tristy there since she was, small. And whenever she was there, the kids would come and play with her. And
now, who is Tristy?
She was one of my girlfriend's daughters that stayed with me a lot.
Okay. So you had a good bond with Tristy, I'm assuming?
Yeah.
But she
and her mom.
So you never, I'm assuming you probably saw Shannon and Kirsten running around the neighborhood and so forth.
To tell you the truth, until that happened, I think I seen the kid one time. She was playing with Crystal that lived up the street. But I don't remember if it was in that time frame or what. I don't really know. Because like I said, I didn't pay no attention.
Okay. Do you remember ever giving food to Kirsten or talking to Kirsten?
No.
Was she ever at your house?
No.
Anything like that? Okay.
No.
And do you remember?
I'm actually a leery guy until people start coming around. I'm just oh yeah, I will be your friend. No, not like that.
Yeah.
But I didn't know. I didn't pay attention to who all was there or who they were. Things like that in my world just fall in place. We accidentally meet. Oh, okay. Yeah, now I know you. Then, but no, never.
Do you ever recall helping Kirsten with her bike or anything? You don't remember any interactions with her at all?
No, I know there wasn't any interactions. I didn't know them at all. And like I said, I don't even know how long they'd been living there until that happened.
Okay.
Because I was always, that was back when I was fishing. I'd usually come off of work, I'd load up my poles, go to Draper. And sometimes I'd stay there all night. Mm-hmm. But I'd always have, second jobs, after hour jobs, mm-hmm. either landscaping or anything to make a buck.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I'm pretty sure that Detective Miller talked to you this before, but am I correct that you said you had never been over there mowing for Shannon or working on her property or? Okay. No. Seems like that come up. Somebody thought you might have been mowing over there or something.
No, he was asking it's about something about a handyman. Is what he was asking me about.
Okay. Well, do you remember ever mowing over there or anything like that?
No.
Okay. While they lived there, do you remember ever being in the yard, the front or backyard for any reason? Okay. How about in the house?
Nope.
Okay.
That had
So there was never any time that Shannon asked for your help to fix this or that, or mow the yard for me, or... Let me bounce back a little bit. We got off a little bit off track. I was kind of having you go back over what you remembered through the night, and I read over the FBI notes that they took when they talked to you. I guess there was some information about you hearing dogs barking.
Yeah, I had a dog in the backyard. His name was Dog. About 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, he went to raising hell. So I just, believe it or not, in my neighborhood, we still got skunks and possums and stuff like that, plus other dogs, Mm-hmm. So I don't know why that woke me up, but because I usually didn't wake up, and usually he's out inside anyway. But it woke me up, and he was barking at that back fence, at our back fence. But at the time, as you walk out my back door, I had an old apricot tree. So unless you went out there, you couldn't see. And I just hollered at him because, thinking there was another dog, because there was always, and traffic, there was human traffic back there. But usually there was other dogs, There was other dogs or cats, and there was always animals through there. So I just, I really didn't think nothing about it. I just hollered at him, and he came in, and I went back to bed.
So you actually let him back into the house? So you opened, your back door, I'm assuming, and let him in? Did you go investigate? No. Did you look down the alley? No. Anything like that?
No. Because usually in the past, whenever I did, that's what it was, either another dog or people use that alleyway, to get through. Why, I don't know, because, I don't know where you'd be going other than from house to house, but there was always, not always, but there was traffic.
Okay. And speaking of the alleyway, did you have any kind of a gate or anything that went out to it? So you didn't have access to it through your backyard? No. I think that'd be ideal to be able to go out into the alley and you could back a trailer up, and it just seems like everybody had a gate.
Well, the house next door to me didn't have a fence. So whenever I weed eated or, did whatever, because I always weed eated, 2 foot around from my fence, next door, and then that alleyway, which the alleyway was...
Because I read your statement, you said you saw your gate ajar. Which gate was that? Gate ajar. Yeah. You didn't have a gate on the back or on the side? Did you have a gate on the side of the house?
Yeah, we got a gate. Well, it's a gate, but no, it wasn't ajar.
Anything else that night after you let Dog back in? Did anything else occur that you remember?
No, I went back to bed, being done.
Okay. And then when did you first become aware of Kirsten was missing and all that's going on?
Well, the next day there was all that activity, and I asked the neighbor across the street what was going on. They said they couldn't find Kirsten, and I didn't think nothing about it, I went to work, and then I don't remember if she called me or I called over there or what, and they said they was wanting people back, because they wanted to go to our houses and blah, blah, blah. So clocked out and came back home.
Do you remember what time it was that you clocked out, came back home? No. Was this morning? Was this afternoon?
It was probably mid-morning, something like that.
Now, who was the friend that you were communicating with?
It was, and I don't know what her name is. Y'all showed me a picture of her.
Okay.
I think y'all showed me a picture of her. Anyway, of her husband, Don.
Is this the Halseys, Tiffany Halsey and Don Halsey?
I guess, yeah.
I'm not sure if Mr. Halsey is Don or not. Did you have
somebody had called me and said that we were wanted back at our house.
Okay.
So I came home.
Okay. And then what happened?
I just sat there.
Did any of our officers or the FBI or anybody come by?
It was the FBI. Yeah.
Okay.
They came in, took statements, walked through the house, and wanted to go in the backyard, and because I had a shed back there. He wanted to look in the shed. And
okay. So he did look through the house and look through the shed? Yeah. You probably don't remember who that was, I'm sure.
No.
Okay. And was he just asking you general questions about Kirsten, and did you know her, have you seen her, that kind of thing, or?
Basically.
Did you write out a statement for him, or was it just a conversation?
I thought he wrote out a statement.
Okay.
But he asked me if he'd come in, wanted, asked me what I knew, which at the time really wasn't anything. He said they was going through canvassing the neighborhood and, asking everybody. And so, yeah.
17 years ago, Tony, were you experimenting with any drugs?
No.
Never did?
No. I drink beer.
That's it? Just drink?
I drink beer. But as far as drugs, no.
Was Kirsten ever one of the kids that you had seen, or was there any talk in the neighborhood about her being mistreated or abused or in need?
No, because like I said, I had no inkling that they even existed until after that. I didn't know.
You had never seen her? Anything
maybe once or twice and didn't think nothing about it, just another kid.
Yeah.
No.
Okay, how about just generally, like who were your friends, best you can recall back then?
Basically just people that I worked with.
Okay. Up there at the Capitol?
Right.
No long lost pal from school or anything?
Yeah.
I guess you moved off from New Mexico and left them there, didn't you?
And I'm not the kind that goes to a bar, if I'm going to drink, I drink at home. I know I've met a lot of people, but.
So you would drink some, but didn't experiment with drugs, didn't do marijuana, anything?
No.
Did they drug test back in them days? At your work?
Well, they always hung that over on us, but we never had got UA.
Okay. So it was kind of the threat.
Yeah. There was some I wish they would have.
You ever had any trouble with the law, Tony?
Oh, yeah.
Before?
Years ago, first degree burglary and assault and battery with a dangerous weapon. I think I told your partner that.
Really?
Back when I was a dumb kid.
How long ago was that?
I think they turned 18.
Oh, so you were just a boy.
Yeah. And all about it, my girlfriend.
Where was that at?
Walters, Oklahoma.
Oh, okay, up in Cotton County.
Yep.
When
When I got out of Job Corps, they found me a job there in Walters as a diesel mechanic.
Is that what your training was?
Actually, I was training for auto mechanic, but they found me a job as a diesel mechanic, and the counselor at Job Corps, he made some deal with the government that if the government or the employer would pay half the wages, they would pay, for OJT.
Right. Uh-huh.
So it was a pretty good deal.
Yeah, it was. I'm surprised that you didn't stay with that. Those diesel mechanics make some money.
Yeah, but it's hard work.
Or is it? It can be harder than weed eating.
Yes, it can too. Some of them parts weigh, heads for one of the Versatiles is probably 200 pounds, and you got a tire about that high, and you got to get it up on that and get it, on the block, and then you're torquing stuff at 240 foot-pounds, laying on your back, and it's hard.
In the last 17 years, Tony, have you changed much? Is this how you were 17 years ago? Just a hard-working man?
Yeah, that's basically it. Yeah.
Okay.
I've changed older-wise, but no.
I'm not the same person I was 17 years ago. I've matured a little bit.
I wish I could say that.
Life changes people, as you get older, you start recognizing things that you could handle differently than what you, if you had it to do over again, you'd change, I can truly say
that's the thing, we can't ever change it.
Yeah, no, you can't change what happened, but sometimes you can make things better. I remember a few years ago, I went to my high school reunion, and I seen a kid that, honestly, I just tormented to death. I was able to find him and make amends and apologize and tell him how, that I was immature at the time and ask for his forgiveness. And, I think by the end he actually remembered some of the things I'd done, and we talked about it, and I felt a lot better, and I think he felt better at the end. I know I did when he said he gave me some absolution, some forgiveness. Hey, I know you weren't very mature back then, and
you know.
Well, it's good for your own self-respect, too.
It is to get it out. And I tell you what, the weight, and I don't know why God had put on me a burden of guilt. I don't want to use the word guilt, but I really felt like after I did that, I had a new outlook.
You get to go fishing?
Yeah.
For a week?
Yeah. Don't
I call it
discourage him,
vacation.
because when he's gone,
Do whatever you want.
it's all right.
It's my therapy.
It's all right.
Actually, it is therapy. It's very good therapy.
It is, because I'm like you. I work. I mean, that's all I ever known was work. But now my wife doesn't understand that working is therapy too, especially.
Well, I've always suffered from depression back when I was a young kid. So, and that always seems like working, I guess, gets your mind off of whatever it is you're thinking about, or, you know, whatever. So that's all I do is work.
It gives you a sense of accomplishment too. That's one thing we really.
Well, especially when your folks tell you that you ain't worth a shit, you'll never amount to hell of beans and blah 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 blah. Yeah.
I know.
Showed you, then. Still not.
Is that how you grew up in a tough environment like that?
That's a shame. I remember my dad. I wrestled and went to state, and Dad never saw me wrestle. You know, and I asked him about it one day, and because it bothered me for years, and he goes, "Well, I never discouraged you from doing it."
And that hit you.
And he goes, my dad would, because down there on the farm, Pa, he was a rough man. You know, he would browbeat those boys. So Dad has progressed to. He's better than his father. Hopefully, I'm better than my father was as far as encouraging.
Yeah, but that telling you that he didn't discourage you, you know. Because what for? You ain't gonna be worth a damn. Yeah, blah 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 blah. Don't.
That's wrong.
Been there, done that. Yeah.
And that affects you.
Yeah.
I mean, that stays with you for life. I'm always on my boy because my grandson's the greatest thing that walks the face of the earth, and I'm always on him. Hey, you're too hard on that boy. You're too hard on that boy. You're too hard on him. And so hopefully he's a better father than I am. He is. So, but I was very fortunate to get some things off my chest over the years, and as I get older, my dad has even talked to me about things that he has wished he had redone, you know.
Yeah, I think everybody has. The only thing that really, and that's probably getting completely off the deal, but when I left Walters, when I got in trouble with Walters, I was going out with an angel. I mean,
a good woman, huh?
My biggest mistake. Yeah, I fucked up big time.
Did you?
That's the only time I can really say that I fucked up.
Lose your temper?
Well, yeah, that's basically what had happened. You know, he was picking on her, and I had, like a dumb kid, had to go do something about it. You know?
Well, not necessarily a dumb kid. Sometimes men got to do.
Well, now, you know, there's other ways of doing stuff, but. And of course, I've been drinking.
Right. That's not the best decision-making process. Conducive to great decision-making, believe me. I was telling my partner as we was driving out to your work that I was 16 years old and we'd cut school, and back then that's where we went drinking.
Dirty Bird?
Dirty Bird. And
did you ever lose any jewelry after?
No, but I put my Mustang in the ditch out there. And I shouldn't have. And I tried to hide
I was telling them I've probably found 200 gold rings since I've been out there.
Wow.
Awesome. Do they wash up on the bank with current and waves, or do you think they get lost there?
Well, they get lost and then they get covered up, you know, because of the wave action. And then the wave action uncovers it again. And then you have to be at the right time at the right place.
Yeah.
So every time, you know, after the wind's blowing, you know, I check my shoreline. Because I hate glass in the water.
Yeah.
That's another one of my pet peeves.
Yeah, stepping on that.
Yeah. Well, first month I was there, I was out at Turkey Pass picking up trash, and people were in from out of state. Kid goes in the water, what's the first thing he does? Steps on a damn rusty hook. Mm-hmm. And after that, I thought, no. So every day, I'd go out there and I'd have a couple 5-gallon buckets, and I'd fill them suckers up. Okay, I do that enough, I'd get it all, but you don't. You'd be surprised. You get out there and you have it spotless, next day, next swim, like nothing ever, you never did that, nothing.
Hey, to get back to what we're here about, you've been living there all these years since Kirsten went missing. I'm curious about your thoughts on what happened, who might be involved, that kind of thing.
I don't know, to tell you the truth. Like I said, I didn't know him. But the one thing that's always bothered me, that she left, the mom. Mm-hmm. She went to Jones, I guess, with her dad or something like that. You could have got me off out of my house. I know, what if she comes back, or, what if somebody makes a call, or, something like that. There was no way I'd left that house. Mm-hmm. That's the only thing that bothers me.
Yeah. So you felt like she shouldn't have left, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you ever at any point over these years or back when it occurred have any knowledge of what happened or know who was involved?
No.
Were you in any way involved?
No.
So you're not responsible for Kirsten's disappearance?
No.
Didn't play any part in that?
No. Like I said, didn't know him. Didn't have, like I said, I just barely, might have seen her once, twice, playing with the kids, but other than that, I didn't know him.
Just out of curiosity, what do you think the motivation was of whoever did this? Why would this have happened?
Well, then I couldn't have told you, but after, over the years, and hearing the rumors and this and that and the other, it always boils down to drugs. I heard that she was on meth and cocaine, and Dawn's wife was the same thing. She said, she'd been over there, that night, and they got lit up. So apparently she did get lit up because, if somebody did come in, wouldn't you have heard it? I don't know.
So
but I know
does that mean that she left Kirsten home alone, you think? Or
I don't know. I'm sure she did. But I don't know. Like I said, I didn't know. And I really didn't pay much attention to Don and his wife. It's just...
where did they live? I'm pretty sure
that's catty corner for me.
Straight across the street?
Not straight, just catty corner. A little white house, catty corner for me.
Okay.
And they had 2 or 3 kids, and I'd come home one day, I was rewarding myself. I did something, and I was stopped at Kentucky Fried Chicken, got me a family pack of chicken. I was going to go down. And the kids, whenever I walked up, they was just, the way they were eyeballing me, like they hadn't ate nothing. They were really, if you'd have seen them, you'd have thought that too, because they were skinny. Mm-hmm. So I got me a piece of chicken, I was chewing on it, and they just, you want some chicken? Yeah. Is that all right if they can have this? Yeah. Because no, it's not, no, it's something everybody ought to do. When you got kids that are,
Yeah.
And I know he was a welder by trade, but he, talking to him a time or two, things weren't going right for him, and, he didn't have money and all that. So, yeah, I didn't have a problem,
Who are we talking about? Was a welder? Don? Okay. From looking back over the history, I understood that Shannon's brother, I guess, stayed with you for a short time.
Aaron. Yeah, Aaron.
Tell us about that. How did that happen? And
he was in the neighborhood, he's apparently looking for, his niece. Mm-hmm. So I'm out there one day, and he stops and he talks, anything, and blah, 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 and we just got to talking, and, he's living in a damn, under a bridge, and dude, I found out already that night that he'd been locked up, so he wasn't a suspect in my books. So, yeah, I opened my house to him, if you ain't got no, because I did that for anybody, it's sick to say, but that's the kind of guy I am. So he needed a place to stay. There's a couch, you can trash here for a couple days and, try to do what you got to do to,
right.
Figure out what happened to your niece. Because, to me, that's, like y'all, that's serious.
Sure, absolutely.
That's a serious
How long after Kirsten went missing did this happen? Was it like the same week?
Probably in the same week.
In the same week?
Yeah.
And then
I can't verify that because, like I said, that's been a while.
Oh, yeah.
But, yeah, it was probably about in the same week.
How long did Aaron stay there with you?
Just a couple of days, and then, you know, he'd go off, and then he'd come back, and then I wound up having to just tell him he couldn't come back because he was on meth too. At the time, didn't know it.
And I think too, because you've heard that Shannon was using drugs too.
I mean, I don't know for a fact, but that's what I heard.
And I'll just say this: if you ever partied with them, if you knew they were doing drugs or witnessed it, just tell us that.
No, no.
We're not.
No, I don't. No. Like I said, and y'all know, you got people that do drugs, you got people that drink, and you don't do drink, and you don't, I drink.
Yeah.
But no, I never partied with them. And I never partied with Don and his wife.
Okay. Now, did you know Aaron at all before?
No.
So you'd never met him, never talked to him before either? Did he ever confide in you anything about the case or anything about
Just
Shannon?
he couldn't clear his sister.
We talked about, had you ever been in the backyard? Had you ever been in the house? All those things. And you said you hadn't.
No, while they were there, no.
Okay. Well, I don't believe you.
Oh.
Tony, I don't think you're telling the whole truth, okay? Your DNA is in the backyard the morning that she was discovered missing, okay? And on her window, and on the panties she'd been wearing the night before that were recovered in the backyard.
No, not me, because no. I find it far-fetched, but no. Because I don't know, I didn't know him.
And maybe you didn't know him, Tony, but
And I didn't have no business over there at all.
That may be also. What we need to talk about is what you were doing in that backyard that night and what happened. We need to get to the truth of
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Were you there trying to help Kirsten?
No. Like I said, I didn't know anything about them people at all. Nothing. Nothing. Never met them. Never said hi, bye, nothing.
Well, here's our problem with that is how did your DNA get there then?
Don't know.
I mean, is this something that's gone on, Tony, that is this one of those things from 17 years ago that a split-second decision has haunted you for 17 years?
I don't know what y'all are talking about.
Were you there to help her?
No. Like I said, I have nothing to do with them people. Nothing. I didn't know them at all.
Okay, so how did your DNA
I have no idea.
There.
I have no idea.
Tony, your blood is on her window. Your blood is on Kirsten's panties.
I don't see how that can happen.
Well, it happens when you're injured in some way, and your blood gets transferred to her window and those panties. Yeah, and it gets left behind. I think you were there to help.
No. I wasn't there, period.
So how did your blood get there?
I have no idea.
Tony, you were there. This is scientific evidence. It's not a debate. It's not anything that can be argued. And here's the point where I really feel you're a good guy. I mean, you've worked 29 years at a hard job. You came up rough like I did. Came up poor.
Yeah, but that's beside the point. I had nothing to do with any of this.
But here's the thing. I don't think that was your intention. You're going to have to explain this.
If you were there, how I do it.
If you were there, if you were there because you heard her yelling for help from your backyard, and you go over there to see because you knew that her mother was a meth head and that she was probably home alone, and you went over there to help,
no.
And you went to the backyard to avoid a conflict with the mother, and you was just going to take care of this little girl because just like you, growing up, you didn't want her being treated that way. That's how understandable things become.
Yeah, I could understand that, but I don't understand how you're getting my DNA.
Maybe, well, how was your blood there?
I have no idea.
Well,
I wasn't there at all.
We weren't there either. All we have is the evidence that was collected.
I didn't collect it. It was collected 17 years ago, Tony. But it's there. And we have to deal with this. And you're saying you were never there.
No.
There's no reason it should be there.
No.
It's not helping your cause. What's going to help your cause is to explain to us how it's there.
I
because the
don't have a clue.
Because the fact it's there is the gorilla in the room. Now, if there is a reasonable explanation as to why you were there, and you were there to help Kirsten.
No.
You were there for, you had a relationship with Shannon.
No. Never knew her.
You were there as a peeping Tom or something of this nature.
No.
Then those are explainable.
Yeah, I understand that, but no. Never there.
Never there.
Never there.
Can't give us any reason
No.
why your blood would be there.
No.
Tony, the worst thing you can do for yourself right now in this position is lie and not be truthful.
I'm being truthful, dude. I don't know how, I can't explain that, why that y'all are finding this.
Well, your blood is in that backyard the morning that she's discovered missing, okay? This is your chance, Tony.
I understand that,
to
but
explain what happened. Maybe you didn't mean for whatever
I was
happened to
not
happen.
there.
You were there.
You were there. Was
There's
you
no
in
doubt
a
about
depression? Was that a period when you were going through a depression? And drinking and getting depressed, and you don't remember until later what actually occurred?
I don't even think I was drinking that night. Tell you the truth, I might have been, but I don't think so. And I was in bed. And
So
I'm pretty sure I don't sleepwalk.
This isn't a deal where you got drunk the night before and actually went through with some urges you had.
No.
Whether you're attracted to little girls
No.
or whatever
I've never been attracted to little girls or little boys.
Well, once again, how is your blood there?
I don't know.
Do you not believe me when I tell you that we have your DNA?
No, I don't.
You don't believe me? Okay. And I can show you the.
Oh, I'm sure you could if that's what that, but I don't know how that could have happened.
Well,
I wasn't there.
There's more to this story, Tony, and that's what we're hoping to get from you today. And this is your opportunity to be truthful and to take responsibility for whatever happened.
Yeah, if I was responsible, that'd be different.
Okay. Well, with that said, were you there and somebody else was there and actually took her and maybe you left your DNA behind?
I was not there. I'm not into little girls, and I'm not a window peeper.
Okay. Well, is there some other explanation for why you were in that backyard that night?
I wasn't in that backyard. I don't know how my blood could have been there or what. I know I went to bed. I know when the dog woke me up, I didn't go out my back door. I let dog in, and I went back to bed.
Well, Tony, I don't know how to impress upon you any more than we've got the physical evidence there. And we have to deal with that, Tony. We really do. And we have to get to a point where we can explain that.
I understand that.
Well, help me do that.
I wish I could. I don't know what y'all are talking about.
Okay.
I don't sleepwalk.
Tony, I think that you've been living with this a long time. And I think
Living with what?
With what happened. And I think that it's one of those things, Tony, where you're scared, but I think there's some verses that says, at some point everything is known. And I truly believe that. And one of these days that you're going to have to come to realize that. And I think that your best bet is simply tell the truth
I've been telling the truth.
Well, unfortunately, what you're telling me doesn't align with any of the physical evidence that we have. And unless there's a huge conspiracy to the FBI and the OSBI and our officers from 17 years ago to frame you, we have to explain this. And I really think you need to talk about it, because I think that's the best thing for you to do, is simply tell us the truth. I think you're going to feel better about it. You're going to have a weight lifted off your shoulders.
I have no idea what you're talking about. Okay, you got somebody's blood, but not mine. I was not there.
Okay.
Not that night, not the night before, not the night after.
Did someone talk you into doing something, going with them?
No, I wouldn't do that.
So how do we explain your blood?
I have no idea.
Well, the blood's going to have to be explained, Tony. It's going to have to be. Yeah, I mean,
And I'm trying to go in my head how anything, but whenever she was living there, I didn't go there. I was there when William was there. Yeah. And even then, I don't see how I'd have cut myself on a window.
Yeah. I don't know. I wasn't there, brother.
I don't know either.
Okay. Well, I'm telling you that the physical evidence is going to have to be explained.
No disrespect, I get the impression maybe you don't believe me when I told you what I told you. So I want to just bring you the copy directly from OSBI, and we've highlighted it here for you, okay? I just want you to understand that this isn't a bluff, Tony. You see those odds? Those odds, I can just tell you from my years of experience, I've never seen at that level, which means this is your DNA. Okay, this is your blood, Tony. That's Kirsten's panties that her mom identified that she had on that night. And that's where your blood was found, as well as on her windowsill. So this isn't just and just so you'll know, we also located some blood on the fence picket, and it's still out for testing. But I suspect that there's a good chance that'll come back to you.
I can't explain it.
And that's what I want to give you an opportunity to do, is explain it, because it's scientific evidence. We know for a fact it's your blood. And of course, Tony, I don't have to tell you that when these panties are identified as Kirsten's, then Mom says, yeah, she was wearing those the night before. And the next morning at dawn, your blood is found in them at the back fence of the property. I mean, if you're in my position as the detective, what does that tell you?
Don't look good for me.
No. And I just want to plead with you to be honest.
I want to be honest.
I want
and
you to
I'm
be
doing
honest.
honest.
Yeah.
I don't.
Tony, I think this has gone on for so many years and has been unsolved, as you well know, for a long, long time. And I'm sure you've told people countless times, I had nothing to do with it, I don't know anything about it, et cetera, et cetera. But this isn't the time to keep saying the same old routine, because this isn't going away. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, this is scientific evidence, Tony. That's your DNA. That's your cells from your body. Tell me what happened. How did you get injured?
I'm trying to figure it out myself, what all this is about.
I mean, you were in some way injured for your blood to be on her window and for your blood to be in her panties. What I want to know from you, was there some kind of a dispute between you and Kirsten?
I had no dealings with those people. Didn't know nothing about them.
I believe
at
that.
all.
I believe that. But I also believe that this is your DNA on her windowsill and your DNA on her panties in the backyard. I don't doubt that you didn't know them, but that doesn't take this away. This isn't going anywhere. And we've got to get to the truth of the matter. I mean, for you to sit here and say, I've never been in that backyard and I wasn't there, it's a lie, Tony.
Yeah,
that's not the truth.
Yeah.
It's not the truth. And I got to believe, if I can speak frankly, you seem like a good guy. And I know if I'd made a mistake like that, and we all make mistakes, we're all sinners, but I got to believe this has been bugging you for your entire life since it happened. Right. So you're telling me what happened that morning or that night hadn't been bothering you all these years?
That's not me.
Was that the alcohol, or were you experimenting with something else?
I don't do drugs, and I don't know. I'm still trying to fathom in my mind what my blood.
Yeah.
I was nowhere around there, didn't know them people, didn't have no dealings with them people, didn't care about them people.
Tony, this is your
I understand,
opportunity.
okay.
You can sit here and say that same crap over and over. You and I both know that's not the truth.
No, it's the truth will have to come out. I don't understand this.
The truth is what needs to come out.
Yeah.
And you're the only person that can do that. You're the only person that can bring Kirsten back and let her family have a proper burial for her. You're the person that can help do that. You made a mistake, Tony. Okay, you made a huge mistake. Do what's right now. Take responsibility for what happened and help us get Kirsten back.
Can't help you. Don't know. I don't understand.
You said that's not me, and when somebody says that to me, what it says is I wasn't in my right mind. I was under the influence.
Well, in the influence, like I said, if I had a beer, I might have had two. I went to bed. I always go to bed. I'm a 10 o'clock bedtime guy. The only reasons here lately I haven't been going to sleep is because I have to have a treatment. And I wake up every 2.5 hours, 3 hours, take treatment, go back to sleep. I have nothing bothering me other than breathing problems.
So your conscience hasn't been bothering you for all these years?
No.
Let me ask you this. Your wife told us that every year on Kirsten's anniversary that you're upset about it, that you go through a phase of being depressed and upset about it.
And the reason that is, it's on the news, and yeah, how do you feel about it? Well, yeah, I'm going to be upset. I mean, it's a missing child. Duh.
If you want to carry it to your grave and not do what's right, that's on you. But you need to think about what you're doing, because right now, these decisions you're making...
How's my damn blood or me, because I was not there. And I know in that night I was in my same mind.
We need to figure this out.
Yeah, you do.
But you're my key. You're the only one that can help me, Tony. I want you to help me.
If I could, I would, because it's making me look real bad.
Well, yeah. Well, I'm not going to browbeat you. I'm not going to be mean or anything, but I need the truth. I need
the truth, too.
I need to find her. I need to find Kirsten. Help me find her.
I can't help you.
Was there somebody else involved?
I can't help you on that either. No, I didn't help anybody or help myself take this girl.
Then how do you explain the blood?
I don't. Well, I can't.
Let me see your arm. You have a scar on your arm. What happened there?
I was picking up a toilet bowl and it cracked.
When was that?
Last year.
Hey, I don't want to be rude. I'm Major David Huff. I'm pretty much these guys' boss. The guys have been out there kind of talking to me about the interview. What do you say? Let's take a break for just a minute. I don't want you getting upset at us. We really are trying to get to the truth, but I don't want you getting upset with us. If you take a drink of water, we'll just relax for a minute, okay?
I can't explain this. And the only thing that I'm thinking right now is, I'm being set up because we want to close this case. That's the only thing that's coming in my head right now. Seriously.
Okay. Well, I understand what you're saying. I'm going to be honest with you. When this first stuff, the stuff first came out, the DNA, I want you to understand how it works, because not everybody does this, so it wouldn't be uncommon for you not to know. The normal person that doesn't do police work doesn't know. The DNA that we got off of these panties, that was taken all the way back when it happened, okay? And it was put into a container where we could keep it indefinitely, all right? It's been there ever since. The FBI took it when they were helping us. It was there, okay? We had what was called an unknown DNA sample. We knew that it was human DNA. We can tell that.
That's true.
Oh, yeah, thanks. We knew that it was human DNA, okay? And we knew it was human DNA from a male. We can know that. What we don't know, when we got it back then, we didn't know the name attached to it. We didn't know whose DNA that was, okay? When the FBI and Detective Miller went out and got those swabs, okay, they got them from a bunch of people, all right? You being one of them. Then it was tested against a sample that was taken off the windowsill and off of the panties, which, by the way, I don't know if they told you this or not, but also has Kirsten's DNA on it. Because little kids, they do a little pee-pee in their pants and skid marks. So her DNA's on it, your DNA's on it, and it's also on the windowsill. That was all done way back when this all happened. It's just now that the DNA results have come back. And I don't know if they told you this. You seem like an intelligent man. So to help you comprehend when we're talking about when we say we know this to be a fact, the number sextillion, what this is saying, if you take a 1 and you put 21 zeros behind it, it's yours. Anybody in the world, any scientist is going to say that is your blood. Now, obviously, when we have a case like this, we're not going to, Mr. Palmer, we're not going to lay out everything that we know and everything we have. That's just not the way it works. It'd be counterproductive. We're not going to do it. There's more than this, but we want to try to get you to digest one thing at a time. Now, having said that, do we know all the circumstances surrounding what happened that night? We don't. Only God, the person who did it, and Kirsten probably know that. But I'm going to tell you this. We do know that Kirsten was wearing those that night. We do know that your blood's on there and her DNA's on there. And that is just an absolute fact.
Right. Yeah, I understand that.
And I tell you, just listening and talking to you, You know, 17, 18 years now has passed. I'm going on my 25th year here. I worked every case you could probably imagine. So is Detective Miller, like he was telling you. We're not brilliant men by any stretch of the imagination, but when it comes to this stuff, we're pretty darn smart. And this is what it boils down to. This much time can pass, and if something horrible happens in your life that you don't want to remember, you can put it in a little box and put it out here and try to keep it away from you. But it happens. I've had to put horrible things that have happened in my life and put it in a little box out here and just hope that it goes away and that pray that one day it doesn't come out, because I've seen some terrible things.
I can imagine.
And here's what I think, and you know, what I think may not matter to you, but it's from the heart. This is what I think. I think that you're not an evil person. I don't think you're an evil person. I've heard about your work history. You know, I know all that stuff. I know you're a dependable person, a hardworking man. I think on this one night, this one time, for whatever reason, that some demon inside you made a mistake.
We need your help.
You have another one? I do. I smoke 3 packs a day. Unfortunately for me. If I could help you, I would help you. Well, I don't like sitting in this situation.
I don't like
This don't look good for me at all.
No. And I've done research on, you know, what happened when you was in Walters and stuff like that, and I've listened to part of the interview, you know, here this morning, and is there a chance that maybe you blacked out and did it? That you went over here and did something? You said something about you don't think you sleepwalk.
No. I'm just going through scenarios.
Well, what it comes down to is this. You know, we've had a lot of people in this room and interviewed a lot of people about stuff similar to this, unfortunately. And there's two kinds of people we deal with. There's the people that, when we present the evidence that we've got, and they know that they've been found out, they stand up and take some type of responsibility and move on, or they deny it. And to me, that's the folks that are really evil. And I just didn't get the feeling that was you. But I guess I could be wrong. It wouldn't be the first time.
And I'm still sitting here thinking, April's Fool, y'all come up with April Fool. That's...
No, not something this serious.
No, there's no April Fool.
Where do you think, if someone was to, the person that did do this, where would they take her and dump her at? Or if they would?
Couldn't tell you. I mean, I watch all the cop shows and stuff like that, or what I do watch, and there's no telling.
So you bring up cop shows, so I'm sure you...
My wife likes cop shows.
Yeah, you've watched a lot of
CSI,
stuff like that, yeah. So, you know, and most of the classes and all the research and stuff I've done with, you know, missing children, where they're usually located at, they're located, you know, or the suspect lives 2 doors down, 3 doors down, or in the same neighborhood. You know, so, I mean, you've hit the profile, you know, your past history shows that, you know, but...
That's another strike against me.
No, but like I said, people change, Tony. People change. You talk about your home life, how you grew up. I grew up with a single mom that raised 9 kids by herself. And I'm about the only one out of my family that's graduated school, that has a successful job.
Oh,
you know. People tell me, you can't do that, you're a piece of crap.
Yeah, and I showed them that, no,
Right.
it's not about anything like that. I was not sexually molested or abused. I was hated, but I found good in this. You know, he taught me some shit, and that's helped me, you know, go through my life. I know some stuff. I know carpentry, I know mechanics, you know. Yeah. I cuss him to this day because he hated me. Yeah. But
Jack of all trades.
That didn't turn me into a monster.
Right.
Because I was hated.
Yeah, and I don't think you're a monster. I think this is just one time something happened and it went a little too far and something had to, you know, an accident.
Actually, I'm in shock is what I am. Like I said, I am still thinking y'all going to say, yeah, well, but this is just a joke, or not a joke, but trying to get me to say something or...
I'm not here to lie. I'm not lying to you about anything. Like I told you from the get-go, you know, my job was to investigate this case and to go out, and I guarantee you, there were probably 30, 40 people that I went out and I got swabs from, just like you did on that day.
I'm in shock. I don't know what to say.
Well, Tony, you're the last person to touch her. You're the last person to touch her. That's her paintings. You're the absolute last person that touched Kirsten. That with other things that we have and that we know and that we've learned, I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. This guy especially has been pushing to allow him to be able to talk to you and try to make some sense about it and give you an opportunity to tell the truth. I was kind of against it, to be honest with you, because you don't get that kind of scientific evidence every day. That is absolutely the most astronomical thing that you could imagine. It's about like every grain of sand on the whole planet Earth, or the odds that it's not you that were the last person that touched her panties. That was the last person that went through that window. The odds they're incomprehensible. So is that the way it's going to be, Tony? Is it going to be a deal where till the day you die, you're going to
proclaim my innocence? Yeah.
Everything that we were going to do here today and everything that you were going to tell us is going to go into a report. It could either be a report saying that he manned up and had some remorse, or it can be that it's that evil person that we were afraid of. And that's up to you. That ball is totally in your court. But it's going to read one way or another. And that's up to you. Because it goes from us to the district attorney and then to the court. So it can read how you want. But giving you this opportunity, that was this gentleman's idea. And I gave him that opportunity. And I'll be able to go home and sleep tight tonight knowing that I gave you that shot. And if you don't want to take that shot, then that's fine. I can't force you to, Tony. All we want is the truth, and all we want is to finally be able to let a mother bury her child. That's what we want. Properly. We want her to be able to
I understand.
Tony.
I know you already think I'm guilty, but I know I'm not. So I don't know what else to tell you.
Well, Tony,
I'm still in shock.
I know you're in shock.
It doesn't compute.
Because it's been 17 years and you thought it was over. That's why you're in shock.
No, what I'm in shock about is you got my blood?
Yeah.
How's that possible?
I can't tell you that, but I can tell you that it is absolute. It is absolute. There is no maybe, there's a possibility. It is absolutely 100%.
Hey, do you want to take a break, give him some time to think about what we talked about?
Do you have any more? Do you have any more to smoke?
Not yet.
Well, go ahead and smoke for a minute. Let us go out here and talk. We'll get your head together. We'll give you one more opportunity to think about what I just said. Okay?
Ask you again. Where's she at?
I can't help you.
Okay, I want you to understand too, and you probably already know this, you're not leaving this room.
I understand that.
And you understand that it's probably going to be quite a while that you're going to spend in jail. Just because we don't have a body doesn't mean that we're not going to be able to charge you with anything.
I understand.
I've got enough evidence against you. But, go ahead.
Tony, there's an arrest warrant in that deal signed by a judge, and it's for murder. And judges don't sign that unless there's probable cause. And to be fair to you, okay, you're not going anywhere. You're being charged with murder. And here's the deal I want you to remember. Right now, we're interviewing every one of your family members. You can probably hear it in the next room. We're already at your house. We will have backhoes, ground penetrating sonar, cadaver dogs, the whole 9 yards.
No. We was laughing about that yesterday.
What's so funny about that?
If y'all were to ever go in our backyard, I got dogs and cats and pets everywhere in that backyard. I don't know what the hell we was laughing about that. We was watching something on TV.
Like where you bury them?
Or animal show.
Well,
so we're not going to find, and this is your opportunity because, I mean.
You ain't going to find Kirsten Hatfield in my backyard.
Or on your property anywhere.
No.
Where do I find her?
I don't know.
Did you black out and you took her somewhere and dumped her?
I didn't get her.
Who did?
Well, what we're going to do is we're going to leave it with, you're that person that has no remorse, and that's the way the report's going to read.
Yeah.
Because what I'm seeing from you is you could care less if we ever find her, and
yeah, I did.
You could care less.
Just put a cigarette out for me. Turn around for me. Put your hands on your back. Relax. You're under arrest for murder, kidnapped Kirsten Hatfield.
Following the arrest and as court documents began to be put together, it was suggested that Kirsten may have been targeted by Palmer for predatory reasons, and investigators believed that Palmer had been motivated to remain in the same home. This was to potentially conceal evidence of the crime or the location of Kirsten's body. In an effort to bring closure to the long-standing mystery, officers decided to employ sonar equipment to reopen the search for Kirsten. Now they focused on Palmer's residence.
I've done over 50 cases. I think we've recovered in the neighborhood of a little over 40 people.
And that's just in the past 8 years. Kent Beeler is helping Midwest City Police identify what's buried on this property on Jet Drive. That's him crawling out from underneath the house.
In this particular case, we are looking for an 8-year-old child, and of course that makes for a very, very small person. And so the more time that goes by, the more difficult it is.
The OU professor says even with a ground-penetrating radar and a backhoe, it's a huge undertaking.
We're in an urban environment in a backyard. We have utility lines running all over the place. People dig all kinds of holes in their backyard for all kinds of reasons.
Having looked at the soil and vegetation on the property, he says even after 18 years, remains can still be located if they're here.
Unfortunately, this search yet again yielded no results. But due to the DNA evidence, Palmer was still formally charged with Kirsten's homicide. As he awaited trial in prison, Palmer made an attempt on his own life. However, the injuries incurred were not life-threatening. He was subsequently put on watch so that Kirsten's family could finally gain some type of relief from their suffering. After years of searching for justice, they would not let it slip through their fingers. The trial of Tony Palmer for the homicide of Kirsten Hatfield took place in October of 2017. There, Palmer entered a plea of not guilty in his involvement with Kirsten's disappearance. During the trial, one of Kirsten's school friends testified. They revealed that Palmer had made her and Kirsten uncomfortable. They said this was due to his persistent staring as they played outside. Prosecutors also raised concerns about potential links between Palmer and other assaults.
3 women told the judge they believe Anthony Palmer sexually assaulted them. Now, this happened years ago, so for many of them, talking about it today was very emotional. Anthony, what do you have to say about what these women claim? Anthony Palmer said nothing. Are these women telling the truth about the claims the women made against him? Prosecutors want to show that he has a history of sexual-related crimes and breaking into homes. He's charged with murder. Prosecutors claim the only reason he targeted Kirsten Hatfield was to sexually assault her.
When I was told what he had done, how he had went through the little girl's bedroom window, that just brought everything back, everything that he had done to me.
This witness told the judge she only came forward with her story after hearing how similar her incident was with what happened to Hatfield. Another told the judge Palmer broke into her house and brutally attacked her in her bedroom while her children were in the house.
In one disturbing incident in the late 1970s, Palmer entered his girlfriend's home through a bedroom window and, in the middle of the night, he preyed on his girlfriend's then 8-year-old sister. In a separate case that occurred the year following Kirsten's abduction, Palmer gave his 17-year-old roommate illicit substances without her knowledge. The victim recalled being found without clothing in a bathtub, with Palmer pouring water on her and preying on her with an implement. These stories mounted evidence against Palmer, building a picture of the likelihood to commit a crime of this nature against Kirsten, speaking to his character as a predator. The most damning evidence against Palmer was the DNA evidence presented in court. This left no doubt about his involvement in Kirsten's abduction and homicide. The jury wasted little time and deliberated for just over an hour before reaching a guilty verdict.
Emotions were high this afternoon as that guilty verdict was read. Kirsten Hatfield's family has waited for more than 20 years for some answers in this case. As for Anthony Palmer, he was silent as he was led back to jail, and I asked him questions.
Any thoughts on the verdict? Can you say where her body is?
As you can see, Palmer looked straight ahead, and when that verdict was read, he showed no emotion and did not look at the family. The jury heard testimony from witnesses throughout the week, including 3 women who say they were assaulted by Palmer in the 1980s and 90s, but the biggest evidence against him, his DNA was found on a pair of Kirsten Hatfield's panties. Those panties were found in the backyard of the family's home the day Kirsten disappeared on May 14th, 1997. Kirsten's remains have never been found, but prosecutor Scott Rowland is hopeful they will find them someday.
We'll continue looking for her until we find her remains, or until this man's heart softens enough so that he sees fit to at least let us recover Kirsten's remains. So far, we haven't seen any kind of remorse or any kind of movement in that regard.
Kirsten's mother, Shannon, and her sister, Faith, also broke down in tears when that verdict was read, and they told me this afternoon this is a moment they weren't sure would ever
I can't explain it, but we are just floored by this miracle, and we are so thankful.
Palma's next court date is November 27th.
Outside the courtroom, Kirsten's mother expressed her relief and gratitude for the outcome. She was overwhelmed by the verdict. She saw it as a miracle that restored her faith in the criminal justice system. Shannon thanked all the men and women involved in bringing integrity to a case that even after all these years had always held a glimmer of hope. Following the trial, Anthony Palmer was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. However, his time in prison was cut short.
We are following today the man convicted of abducting and killing 8-year-old Kirsten Hatfield 22 years ago is dead. Over the weekend, DOC confirmed Anthony Palmer was killed at the state pen in McAllister Friday.
News 9's Chris Gilmore has reaction from Kirsten's family and law enforcement who investigated the case. Chris?
Good morning. Anthony Palmer was serving a life sentence without parole when he was killed in his cell on Friday, allegedly by one of his cellmates at the Oklahoma State Penitentiary in McAllister. Now, the cellmate of his, a man serving multiple life sentences for a murder conviction of his own. The news of Palmer's death at a maximum security facility has left some asking questions.
In January of 2019, less than 2 years into his life sentence, Palmer was found lifeless in his prison cell at the Oklahoma State Penitentiary. He had been throttled and beaten by his cellmate, Raymond Pallado. He was serving a sentence for a triple homicide that he had committed in 2010. Prison officials believed that Palmer was targeted by his cellmate due to the nature of his crime. This resulted in him being attacked with an extension cord. It was common for predators to receive extremely negative, violent treatment from other inmates in prisons, and this was no different. Tragically, with his passing, the location of Kirsten's body, which he had concealed for years, was taken to the grave with him. Midwest City detectives had been planning to visit him in prison later that year. They had hopes that he would reveal the location of Kirsten Hatfield's body. The police chief expressed that Palmer might have had a change of heart, a change which would lead him to finally disclose what he had done with Kirsten's body. However, that hope was never realized. The police chief said that they didn't encourage what had happened in prison, but that some people would say that Palmer received justice for his crimes. The police force's primary concern was the fact that they had not found closure in Kirsten's case, and the chances of locating her body grew extremely slim without Palmer. Police Chief Klebs discussed his curiosity about the events surrounding Kirsten's disappearance, thinking that Palmer may have confided in someone about what he had done. He encouraged the public to come forward with any information they might have, anything at all regarding any conversations they may have had with Tony Palmer about Kirsten. Mother Shannon also shared her perspective on Anthony Palmer's arrest and the subsequent events. Shannon emphasized that even though Anthony Palmer had taken her daughter's life, she had forgiven him long before discovering that he was responsible for Kirsten's passing.
I will never give up on her.
The news coming to Shannon in a phone call from family. Her daughter's killer found dead inside of his cell.
I didn't anticipate having so many different emotions. I mean, forgiveness and God and a prayer life and fighting for Anthony Palmer in prayer.
She was hoping time in prison would soften Palmer into confessing where he hid Kirsten's body, so she wrote him letters.
Until Anthony Palmer asked that I stop writing him. Very respectful, but he asked that I just stop writing him.
Was there any part of you that felt this is revenge?
No. I'm not celebrating Anthony Palmer's death. I know that for certain.
She expressed that God's love and forgiveness were essential in helping them navigate Palmer's arrest, the trial, and whatever comes next. She clarified that she wasn't celebrating Palmer's passing, and she extended her prayers to his family, acknowledging that he also had loved ones who cared for him. Kirsten's family is determined to continue looking for her, hoping that investigators search a lake where Anthony Palmer used to work, and that they may uncover evidence related to their daughter's disappearance. However, with Palmer's passing, they too are concerned that the investigation into their daughter's case may lose momentum. Kirsten's mother worries that Palmer's passing might lead to complacency, potentially affecting the efforts to investigate him for any other involvement in missing persons cases. She feels that Kirsten's value is not receiving the attention it deserves, and she seeks prayers, insights, connections, and opportunities to shed light on the darkness that continues to surround her daughter's case. While she maintains faith that God will bring Kirsten's case to a conclusion, she continues to wonder how that will happen without properly saying goodbye. Do you think the punishment fits the crime here? What do you think could be done to avoid something like this happening again in the future? Please do let me know down in the comments. Be careful out there, and I'll see you soon.